106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Good evening, Chicago. It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. My name is Deep Dish Pizza enthusiast Edward Heller, and welcome to another edition of Chicago Corner. Tonight, we're covering a lot of stuff, actually, but we just had some late breaking stuff, and I'm bringing in my cohort in crime, Jerry Vasilatos. Jerry, how you doing tonight? You're probably
well, here I am.
Yeah, you probably need like the extra comfort that the suit provides tonight, I'm thinking.
Oh, I wish. Actually, last time I wore that suit at Halloween a couple years ago, it would have actually made my situation worse. I told Ed before the show, I've got some excruciating lower back pain that came from nowhere. I didn't exert myself, didn't do anything, just suddenly woke up with it. It's gotten worse. So I'm like, I don't know how animated I'll be tonight, but I'll try to be.
I empathize. I can both empathize and sympathize with you, Jerry, because I'm very familiar with chronic back pain, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight.
No, but you brought it up.
But I do want to tell everybody that it is important to take care of your spine, and hydration super important. So drink plenty of fluids. Plenty of fluids. My fluids are caffeinated this evening. And I guess, our opening story is actually an update on the migrant crisis that we're dealing with in Chicago. And we're going to go to a live stream that happened a little earlier today over on CBS 2, where with a community meeting where they're talking about moving the migrants over to Gage Park Fieldhouse.
Another field house. How dignified.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to get in. The reason why I wanted to show this is because I was watching some of it earlier, and it gives you a little more of the inside baseball of exactly what they need to deal with, as far as the things that they have to determine and how they need to proceed and all the roadblocks that they have to deal with. So, and the crazy part of this is the person who introduces the meeting for me. But
is it who you mentioned in the Slack?
It's a person who does not know how to prepare oatmeal, Jerry.
Oh my God! Why did they get this clown? All right, I'm gonna let you lead. So
we've got Ray Lopez opening, and he's actually, I mean, aside from the much lighter dog whistles this time around, he's relatively even keeled in this opening because, like I said, I think he does want to help people. It's just he takes every opportunity to virtue signal to whatever base he's pushing toward. But he's
very authoritarian too, and the way he wants to help people, it's almost like a very means tested, and in some cases though, I think, Ed, kind of short-sighted discriminatory point of view. kind of entitled like, your migrants, this like
yeah,
everyone
although
else did, but
because there's more people on this panel answering the questions, it's not just his viewpoint in this, which actually kind of helps while we're watching this. I'm playing this back at a super fast speed. I've already asked Jerry that if there's anything he wanted to backtrack on or play back at a little slower or normal speed, we're going to do that tonight. But
Can I ask you though? Do we need to run it fast? Can we just run it?
I think so. In order,
I don't have a problem watching it at normal speed, so we can all understand instead of
it's going to take a while if we do that, and I may actually skip forward in a couple spots, and also the live stream cuts out near the right when the questions started, so that's kind of, I don't know, they didn't pick it back up, and so I'm just amused by the fact that even regular news outlets are having issues with streaming from time to time. But here we go.
That's that great corporate internet infrastructure, whether it's Comcrep, Infinity, or RCN, astound at how bad the upstreams are.
So there's a link to this stream if you guys want to watch the thing in its entirety later at any desired speed that you like. But I'm playing it back at 1 3/4 speed because that's going to be the most audible at the fastest speed over on YouTube. So here we go.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alderman Raymond Lopez of Chicago's 15th Ward. I'd like to welcome you all for joining us this evening. Before we begin, I need to go over a couple of items. We're going to have a presentation on the Gage Park Fieldhouse transformation, and then we will take questions from the public. If you are here and wish to share your thoughts without speaking, please fill out this part and provide it to anybody, either at the check-in or any of the staff here. If you wish to speak, you'll be given 1 minute to pose your question to this panel. Please keep your questions concise so that we can try to accommodate everyone's questions this evening.
Oh, I didn't realize this is only playing audio out of one speaker, but if you guys are just listening to it at home on your regular speakers, it's probably not a big deal.
Must fill out this form. Please fill it out thoroughly and completely. No half-filled forms will be accepted. We'll call individuals up 5 at a time, and please forgive me if we mispronounce. I'll do my best to pronounce your name. I'd like to also thank our panel that is here this evening with us. From the Office of Emergency Management Communication, I have Matt Dowdy. From the Department of Family and Support Services,
Let me slow this down so you can hear who's on the panel.
I'll do my best to pronounce your name.
Kathy, we've got the volume up all the way. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the volume they recorded it at and the volume that's through StreamYard.
I can try and get it.
I'd like to also thank.
I thought you had it all the way up.
Our panel that is here this evening.
That's what she said.
From the Office of Emergency Management Communication, I have Matt Dowdy. From the Department of Family and Support Services, I have Danny Castaneda. From the Mayor's Office, we have Jesus Del Toro. From the Chicago Park District, we have Maya Solis. And from CPD, we have 8th District Commander Brian Sprini and Deputy Chief.
I wonder how he got the gig to moderate this, or how they decided he's
through the short straw.
Is that really? Is that how they did it?
No, I'm guessing.
Oh,
I'm joking.
Well, that would be appropriate. Oh, there's that's
we are in.
No, it's not
a humanitarian crisis. A crisis that has been brought to the city of Chicago by individuals from across this country. This crisis is fueled by a failure of the federal government 36 years in the making.
He's not wrong.
36 years ago, then President Ronald Reagan granted amnesty to all undocumented individuals living in the United States of America. At any point, Congress, House or Senate, or any president since could have pushed to fix and make stable this city's immigration, asylum, and naturalization process. It has not. And whatever your concerns are with regards to the federal policy, I understand frustration, but allow me to say this is not the venue. No one on this stage or in this room has the authority to address federal policy. What we are addressing is the human crisis that we've seen unfold in our city since August of last year, when the very first busload of individuals arrived in our city. We have two options. We can play the politics like others, ping-ponging these families, these men, women, children, babies across the city of Chicago, shelter to shelter, district to district, or we can say enough. We can end the juggling and start processing and helping them move forward so that we can move forward as a city.
He's actually correct here. He's finally taking the high road, or at least he's forcing himself to take the high road. for
maybe
this.
for some temporary personal agenda.
But he's correct again.
No, he is right. No, and we give credit where credit is due when people are right. And I'm glad to hear that he's stating a case that we've been talking about forever. And he's not assessing blame at the vulnerable. He's pointing fingers where they should be pointed, instead of the vulnerable people who are like, coming here because they're coming here for their safety and fleeing oppressive regimes and everything else.
Yeah.
Because what we've seen up to this point as of late are hundreds. I think at one point the high water mark was 800 individuals in the lobbies, parking lots, restrooms, and public areas of our police district stations across the city of Chicago. We cannot continue down there. More specifically, as we opened in faith, I'm confident in saying
Can you pause for a second, Ed?
Yeah.
I wonder if, look, I'll give this guy benefit of the doubt. I've been very critical of how he approaches things in the past, but I really wonder if the tone that's been set by the new administration is forcing a lot of these older people to like be less abrasive, less confrontational, less authoritarian, and realize we all have to like start coming together instead of pointing fingers at each other and solve this problem, because it is a humanitarian crisis. And I applaud him for, being honest about this finally, as opposed to like the blame game of like, we shouldn't be helping them because, we don't have the resources to. When we do have the resources, not just to help them, but a lot of people that are suffering in the city.
Yeah, Kathy thinks he still has ulterior motive. She doesn't want us to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I know, I think it's just, we got a new mayor in there, and we're willing to give people a second chance and, give them enough rope, metaphorically, and let's see how they do with the new mayor. And so far, it looks like he's making an effort here. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt this time. We'll see what happens if he decides to switch gears again and start to get petty.
Speaking of Johnson, briefly, on a brief side note, he gave I thought, a fantastic press conference Monday on Juneteenth, where reporters were talking about the violence over the weekend, and he basically redirected them towards, there is no short-term solution here. We're where we are because we've been avoiding the investment in communities and attacking the root causes of crime for so long. And still on social media, you see all the closet racists. Oh no, we just have to be punitive. We have to throw more people in jail. It's like they completely missed what Brandon Johnson was saying about, look, man, I appreciate you're asking me the questions, and I have to be accountable as the mayor answering these questions. But let's be honest. This is not going to change overnight. We have a lot of things we got to do to like change course. There was a reporter there. Was that? Do you think that was William Kelly, who he welcomed back?
Hard to say. I only got a chance to really. I couldn't hear the audio of the people asking him questions, and the place I was working, because there's a bunch of fans going in the place.
Lightfoot's biggest critic, I think it was him, because he was the one who brought up the crime on the weekend, and Johnson just handled him very politely. He was like, "Hey man, it's good to have you back," because I think Kelly had been banned from press conferences.
That's who he was complimenting. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's the way a mayor addresses people, with respect. He wasn't hostile. He was so calm, and I actually believe authentically respectful to Kelly, because he knew Kelly was going to come there to like drop the bombs to make him look bad. And he's just like, hey man, he doesn't have the thin skin that Lori Lightfoot did to properly address it the way a mayor should. And I was so impressed with that. And I'm like, finally, we have a grown up there who, whether he's going to disagree with the reporter's premise or not, he's not going to be defensive about it. And he actually like took the time to say, hey man, good, you're back to ask the questions. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, and then that's another thing we could talk about later too, because I'm like, I know the reporters are going to start asking that. They know that you're doing the whole we have to do the restorative justice stuff, but I think a lot of the reporters were just trying to figure out, okay, but what exactly are you doing now to stop the stuff that's happening now? And he wasn't taking the bait on that. Whereas, some of us kind of just want to get the general idea on what he's doing, and whether that just happens to be that, well, he's trying to coordinate the best he can with the police. Yeah. So,
but again, this speaks to tone, and bringing it back to Lopez. Although Kathy, maybe he does have ulterior motives. I do think a much more mature, respectful tone has been set with this new administration. Maybe the aldermen are recognizing that's just how they have to start performing.
Yeah. All right, let's get back into this video.
It is against our faith to turn a blind eye to the suffering of those here.
Oh, I agree, Kathy. They were.
And we must
The
show the rest of the
Johnson
city
conference. Yep.
Yeah,
we are here today because on May 18th, I approached our new mayor, Brandon Johnson, members of his administration in the Chicago Park District, and offered what I believe was a policy solution to both the short and long-term needs that we're seeing unfold before us. The use of the Gage Park Fieldhouse as a processing and respite center for those coming to the city of Chicago.
That's why.
We've seen in other areas of the city where temporary use of facilities have been propped up, but they are not lasting. They are always short-term. They are the short-term to the short-term.
That's why he's doing this. That's why he's shifted his gears, because he made a suggestion to Brandon Johnson and he's going to go with it. So he's probably not experienced this kind of responsiveness in a mayor in a long time, or possibly ever.
Yeah.
So
or middle ground, or will compromise.
So let's see where the rest of this gets us.
Hey Jimmy, yeah, sorry about the back talk.
We will discuss what I proposed to the mayor and his team and everyone on this stage, was that we would turn the field house proper, the building of the Gage Park, into a center.
Hey, no back talk. Oh no, not that kind of back talk.
Where it would be safe to bring the migrants. It would be safe for the community, where we can offer health screenings and help provide the health care that they need in a secure and dignified manner, and that it would be temporary, so that working with our partners, we could find them and transition them into more stable housing that didn't require them to be shuttled district to district, shelter to shelter. At the time,
Ed, pause it real quick. There was the issue brought up about the health care.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I think the migrants should get it, but I think everyone should get it. I mean, this is one of those moments where the critics are right. If we've got the resources to extend a hand to the migrants who've come to the city, from healthcare to everything else, what's the excuse for not offering that to everybody?
Well,
and that is,
essentially they would extend Medicaid to everyone who needs it, which they should do. And sadly, I think, as Lopez has said, that because they haven't declared any kind of federal emergency here, they're not able to take advantage of some of the things that they might get in a federal assistance.
Cleared police districts of every body, man, woman, and child that was in there. In the week since that announcement, several more busloads have arrived at our doorstep. Even our solution isn't enough, because this can't just be our solution. This has to be a Chicago solution until the federal government does its job to correct this issue. Today, you're going to hear what we are going to do in Gage Park. Today, you're going to hear what we are doing for those that use Gage Park, inside or out of the field house. You're going to hear the impact that it will have on our police districts and our ability to help through our delegate partners. And you're going to hear what we're going to offer those who need the help the most, the asylum seekers who have been shipped to Chicago. I thank you all for being here. We are happy to discuss your concerns at the end of this presentation. And again, anyone wishing to speak, this is how you do it. And know that I understand people's tensions. I understand that emotions are high on all sides. But we can have and will have a very dignified conversation today. And I ask and encourage all of you to join me in maintaining the civility of this room, the sanctity of its space, and the recognition of our neighbors as we carry on this discussion. So with that, I will turn this over to Matt so that we can begin the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman, and thank you for your support. All right, once again, my name is Matt Dowdy from the Chicago Office of Emergency Management Communications. All of us up here on the panel, as well as hundreds of others, have been deeply involved in this mission going back to last August, when we first discovered that the state of Texas would soon start sending buses to Chicago. So it's been a pretty long journey, a challenging journey. We're certainly not at the finish line just yet, which is why we're here today to talk about this important topic.
This is Matt Dowdy, in case you didn't catch his name.
We've prepared a short presentation, and we're happy to entertain your questions. All right, let's get a quick background of how we arrived here today. Thus far, we've estimated that we've received over 11,000 individuals and asylum seekers that have arrived here in Chicago, going back to when our first bus arrived on August 31st, 2022. They've come
11,000. That's a lot.
From dozens of nations, but as we probably all know, there's a large concentration of Central and South American arrivals have come here, and a large percentage of those have come from Venezuela. But there are certainly other countries represented as well. As I mentioned, those first arrivals came with little notice from the state of Texas. We learned about them in mid-August, and we had roughly 2 weeks to properly prepare for the first round, and we've been really preparing ever since to try to keep up with the flow. Since that time, though, we've noticed that asylum seekers have also arrived here via other means. They've been financed to take bus trips or plane trips, or they've found their way here via Amtrak or Greyhound, however they've been able to get here. So it's not just the state of Texas that has been sending buses from the border, but other people have been able to find their way here as well. All right, important to note, because we get this question often, ultimately the topic comes back to Chicago homeless. It's important to note that none of the funding for this mission is diverted from funding that has been allocated for Chicago homeless. That continues to be a high important priority for us. We want to make sure that we are not diverting any funding. Going back to last year, we're on a constant search for shelter spaces across the city that we need to provide those basic needs for our
When was this press conference?
That was earlier today.
Okay.
They were
There's
literally
there's just a lot. I wish we could kind of jump ahead towards a lot of the back.
I'm going to. It's just I wanted to just get the basic wrap our heads around the basic part, and in most of it's in the front end here.
Okay.
Really an all hands on deck approach. Our office, OEMC, DFSS, the mayor's office, and several other city agencies, as well as non-governmental organizations, have all been participating and responding to this crisis. Important to note, we learned yesterday, just a little over 24 hours ago, that the state of Texas was sending 4 buses to the city of Chicago today. To be honest, I can't remember the last time they sent 4 on one day. I know it was in 2022. It's been a while. That surprised us a little bit, and we spent some time scrambling to find the appropriate sheltering facilities for the folks. I'm happy to say that all 4 buses safely arrived today, and we were able to get all of the arrivals who were interested in coming with us to shelter. We were able to get a roof over their heads tonight, but it just shows the challenge that we were under to try to find appropriate facility space for our new arrivals. All right, going back to last August, we've had a total of 24 shelters and 2 airport staging areas in response to this mission. Not all 24 are open right now. We've had to open and close shelters as needed. As the Alderman mentioned, these are our High Ridge YMCA in the West Ridge neighborhood, the end of Chicago on the near north side, Wadsworth Elementary in Woodlawn, the Young Men's Leadership Academy in Douglas.
Okay, it looks like Chicago.gov has the data that you'll probably be looking for here. I'm just going to skip forward here. To this guy.
I'd like to turn it over to Danny from DFSS to talk about some shelter basics.
Good evening, good evening, everyone. My name is Danny Castaneda. I work for the Department of Family and Support Services. I'm the Homeless Service.
It's Danny Castaneda.
Business Division, tasked with the oversight of our Chicago homeless shelter system, but also for the new arrivals response. So what resident or clients of the Gage Park shelter can expect is similar to what any shelter client can expect across the new arrival system. So really the basics include, a safe place to rest, so a cot, blanket, and a pillow, and then a safe place to shower and access to hygiene products, laundry services for any personal belongings, and then food, which includes 3 meals a day. Additionally, we provide transportation to healthcare screening. So it is expected and offered to every new arrival that is being intaked at a new arrival shelter, access to healthcare screening and then follow-up appointments should they need specialty care or follow-up appointments for the entirety of their stay at our shelter. And then the majority of our staff, given that the primary,
I can't make out what he's saying.
Let me back it up. He's
At the speed, yeah. I mean, it's like it's like I can't make out
faster than everyone else on the panel. Let me back up the truck here.
Okay.
And we'll play that back at a closer to normal speed if I can get my mouse to cooperate here. All right.
As a shelter at any point in the near future. So again, that's why Gage Park is tasked attractive option.
Good evening, good evening, everyone. My name is Danny Castaneda. I work for the Department of Family and Support Services. I'm the Homeless Services Division, tasked with the oversight of our Chicago homeless shelter system, but also for the new arrivals response. So what residents or clients of the Gage Park shelter can expect is similar to what any shelter client can expect across the new arrival system. So really the basics include, a safe place to rest, so a cot, blanket, and a pillow, and then a safe place to shower and access to hygiene products, laundry services for any personal belongings, and then food, which includes 3 meals a day. Additionally, we provide transportation to healthcare screening. So it is expected and offered to every new arrival that is being intaked at a new arrival shelter, access to healthcare screening, and then follow-up appointments should they need specialty care or follow-up appointments for the entirety of their stay at our shelter. And then the majority of our staff, given that primarily most of our new arrivals are Spanish-speaking and Spanish-speaking only, we do have the majority of our shelter staff bilingual in English and Spanish. So clients are, so it is an offer to them, folks, for example, today who arrived on the 4 buses to Chicago from Texas today, many of them had other plans, so did not necessarily need or require shelter. But those that do are offered shelter with us in the no arrival system. But they are allowed to come and go as they please. Obviously, and we'll get into this in future slides, there are policies in place for shelter residents, which our shelter staff are there to.
Now, he said some of them have other plans, and you can assume that some of them have relatives who already live here. So maybe they're staying with relatives who may or may not be citizens, but may also be living, and possibly working in Chicago. So, it's sad to know that some of these people may have not had any intention on getting to Chicago, but they were bused here anyway. And that's, that just exacerbates the problem.
Yeah.
To enforce, but otherwise residents can come and go, and they just are required to abide by the curfew that's in place, which is 11 p.m., but we'll get into that in the next couple of slides. So right now, just given the fluidity of the situation, but for now, we are establishing, or we are asking.
Quick, zoom in on the old guy.
Adults, which could include adult families, meaning a father with an
Now
adult
move over
child,
to the
for
younger
example.
guy.
But Gage Park would not have families with children. And primarily the population that would be at Gage Park are those that are waiting for shelter at police stations right now. And then some of the, one of the main questions that we've gotten is how do people get connected to healthcare? Many have had very long journeys and had been waiting at police stations for some time. So our priority is to make sure that we are offering them healthcare support. And that's done through a number of ways. First and foremost, Cook County Health has been a huge partner with us. So our intent and offer to every shelter resident is to visit Cook County Health. And the goal is typically within 72 hours of being intaked at a shelter. And they get a full health screening, vaccinations are offered, et cetera, COVID testing, all of the above. And then in addition to that, the Chicago Department of Public Health.
So the CBS camera dude is clearly getting B-roll while the stream is going.
Yeah, I was just looking on YouTube to see if anybody had compiled highlights from this, and because I guess the conference started like right before we were going to show, we're like looking at it in real time as opposed to being able to share the highlights. So unfortunately, this is what it is as far as speeding up the video. I wish. I know you couldn't do that.
I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit.
Because it's like them talking. We're not commenting on it, or like basically getting to like the point of.
Well, aside from basically hearing a slightly different side to Ray Lopez, I just wanted to get a general idea on how they try to manage these things.
Right.
And so this Castaneda guy, he's really good. He knows what's going on. He works at DCFS. And they put him in charge of managing the migrants, and he's talking about what types of services they're providing to them, which we heard, and the rules and the basic guidelines, and none of this is unreasonable. None of it is. You give them three meals a day. You give them shelter. You give them a medical screening. And any additional health care if some, any special thing arrives. And, you set up ground rules. You got bilingual people helping them out with guidance. And, I don't know what more you can really ask for this other than them just to make sure that they're getting the proper resources that they need. And also that it doesn't overly impact everyone else in the city who needs some resources as well. And it sounds like they're addressing those things. So then we got, where were we? Let's see. Who's this? Do we need to hear from that guy? Let's see.
Came in today, somewhat unexpectedly. We cannot establish a firm exit date for Gage Park right now. Every day we work with the Park District to talk about this option as well as other options across.
Okay, it sounds like he's talking about they're not really like once they have migrants moved to Gage Park, they don't have an exact date on when they will be moved out of Gage Park. But how can you know right now until you've got some more plans and resources in place, right? So let's hear what the guy who got the short straw said.
Done so far in this problem that we've experienced the past year. I'd also like to throw a big thank you out to the officers of the Chicago Police Department who across the city have been handling this as well. Just some security basics. Security at most of the facilities, and Gage Park specifically, has Park District Security. They have an outside security firm as well, so that's 2 layers. And we as CPD will also augment that, so we will assist in any areas with that. We'll do special attentions and special checks periodically within the site. There's a logbook for signing in and out in any activities. So together with all the security and the police department, which is a 24/7 operation, that's our segment of the security.
Yeah, so he's basically there to reassure the citizens that that the migrants aren't going to get out of control. Or whatever, however he words it there. Okay, let's go to the next guy.
Resettlement. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Thank you to Alderman Raymond Lopez for bringing us together this afternoon. I also want to acknowledge Alderperson Helu Gutierrez for her presence today. I wanted to chat a bit about resettlement. It's not the goal for folks to be in shelter indefinitely. I think this is the next step that the city is really focusing on in conjunction with the state on how to do long-term transitions. I think it's important to realize that this is the first time that Chicago takes on resettlement to this volume. Many of you that know that migration is not new to the city. We have a long history of immigrants here. I think what's different and unique is the way in which they're arriving and the volume. Like we mentioned today, 4 buses arrived today. Tomorrow could be 1. Next week could be 10. And that's what's make this mission really difficult for those receiving cities like New York, DC, Chicago, Denver. So we're not the only cities experiencing this. So I did want to share that with folks. I also wanted to thank many Chicagoans, whether mutual aid groups, NGOs who've stepped up, who've fed folks at police stations, who've donated, whether it's time or money. I think it's shown the values of the city. And I think, unlike New York, we had a couple of weeks to really think through a plan. And what we were asked is, what do you do when folks are just dropped off at Union Station with very little information, very little communication? And the goal is really to strain our infrastructure. And I think that is clear from the lack of communication from the governor of Texas. And it's also to pin us against each other in subdivision. And so we're going to try our best to ensure that folks have plans for the next step. But like I mentioned, this is a first for Chicago. So, and we've extended that same information to new arrivals as they're coming here with no idea of what Chicago is. Many of them still thought they were in Texas. So there's a lot of confusion. But what we've done is provided some clarity and hopefully some hope. So just wanted to touch on that first.
I didn't have a slide. My name is Maya Solis. Good evening. I want to talk about the patrons that are currently at Gage Park right now, or we're planning to be there for the summer. I know there's a couple parents here. And between me and the staff at Gage, we called everybody that was registered for day camp that starts June 26th and gave them an alternate location to have day camp. We are guaranteeing that if you registered, and I have your list of names for day camp at Gage Park, which runs for 6 weeks, which is June 26th to August 4th, you will have another spot. And the same can be said about our special rec and our hard of hearing programs. They will be moved to other locations as well. I'm sure we have other questions, but.
Okay, I'm pausing it right there. Lou, welcome to the live chat. Good to see you. That's not Lou.
It's not Lou. That's Dominic.
Oh, that's Dominic. I need glasses, I think, Jerry. That's constituentpolling.org. That's Dominic. He's saying the migrants are coming to the state of Illinois. What are the counties, cities, and towns in the state doing to address their needs? Where are their elected officials talking about this? That's a good question. If I dug around, I probably could at least find a statement from our governor, J.B. Pritzker, and see if he's doing anything to coordinate with any of the other areas around Chicago. And I know that they did mention briefly in this live stream that they're limited to the resources and the restrictions of what they can do as a city municipality. So they can't exactly reach out. They're not supposed to reach out to other cities and other counties to make arrangements. So like what Lightfoot did was a no-no. And aside from being unethical, it was a no-no. She wasn't supposed to be trucking migrants out to Burr Ridge, even for a week.
Yeah, she's doing the same thing Abbott did by shipping them here to Chicago, passing the hot potato.
Yeah. So let's see. Here we go.
That's all.
clothes that you and I no longer want to wear. And then if you know of someone that is in need of shelter,
Oh, he's good with the if you want to help deal. So let's.
So in many conversations that we've been in, folks really want to understand how they can get involved in potentially any employment or workforce opportunities. So we just wanted to make sure that we included this information. So right now, all of our shelters are being staffed through a crisis response staffing agency known as Favorite Staffing. So if you know someone who may be interested in an employment opportunity, we are fairly consistently hiring through Favorite Staffing. So the website is listed there. And then we also, not at every facility, but at several of our facilities, we also have the city's security contractor, which is SkyTech Security. So again, another opportunity for employment through SkyTech. And then just generally just wanted to plug this in here for workforce development programs and other resources readily available from DFSS year-round outside of the new arrivals response. Just wanted to plug that website here as well. And then one of the biggest questions that we get is how, where, and what can I donate to support? We've gotten a lot of support around donations, so just want to say thank you to really everyone that has contributed in many ways, specifically around donations. But the website is listed there so that you can really get a sense of the items that we're really in need of. And specifically just want to note that we are trying to stick as much as possible to new items so that they're items that you and I, especially as it relates to clothing, that you and I would still wear, and not necessarily giving a new arrival clothes that you and I no longer want to wear. And then if you know of someone that is in need of shelter, please direct them to, or assist them in calling 311 to open a shelter request. We're trying to get through that as quickly as possible, but if someone is not in the queue and is not calling 311, then we can't help find them shelter. So just wanted to reiterate that as well.
Okay, and we also have
Okay, and then they got to one guy to make to question/statement, and they were only giving people a minute, and then the stream cut out. So I don't know if we want to play this guy's comment. Yeah, let's play this guy's comment. Here.
While they are moving forward, just a reminder to everyone that is here, if you wish to leave an opinion without speaking publicly, please
that'd be funny, but no.
These cards, they are available at both entrances. If you wish to speak, all speakers.
Everyone knows, and we're many. And first of all, thank you.
Oh, I had it.
My name is Father Romero Sanchez, the pastor of San Rita and St. Clair. First of all, thank you for really recognizing that we're in a crisis, and the crisis comes for everyone. My heart really shrinks for the police officers to start with, because it is the work is already hard. Coming back to the police station, where it's full of people that you don't know who they are, is more difficult. My question is more about work. These new arrivals are coming to the city. I don't think they're coming to take anybody's job. That's understandable. Everyone knows, and we're many in this room, maybe migrants as well. But how can they have a work if the work permit comes until after 150 days? That's the first thing. 311 is not working. That's a reality. So what can we do?
Thank you.
So to your question about 311, I think the challenge has been is that we are seeing way more shelter requests than we have shelter capacity. So when we say that 311 isn't working, it's not because 311, the system, is failing, but it's because we have been unable to keep up with creating shelter capacity at the extent that we are seeing people needing shelter. So that is true, and even then, we are in constant communication with the 311 team to see how we can change the process and make sure that the process isn't what's failing us. And what we're seeing day in and day out is that even with opening a new shelter, we just haven't gotten to a point where someone submits a 311 request and right away we have an available bed. So instead, what happens is that there's a large backlog. But that doesn't mean, I don't want that to discourage anyone from calling 311 to open a shelter request, because that's still a really good data point for us. If we know right now that there are 300 open shelter requests via 311, but really there's another 700 that just don't want to call 311 to request shelter, then we're not ever able to plan around the full need. So please encourage people to call 311 if they are in need in shelter, so that we can continue to push and plan for the full need, and not only for those that are willing and able to call 311.
Thank you, Father, for the question on the work permits. Yes, we've advocated to the federal government to expedite those work permits. Many of the folks that we talked to, they've made it clear, like, that we're thankful for the refuge, we're thankful for the food, but if the city of Chicago can provide us a work permit, we can become self-autonomous, we can take care of our own. But then we have to explain that, that it's outside of the jurisdiction of a city.
Yeah, and that's when it cuts out. The stream just literally, they lost their stream and it never came back. But he essentially was getting to that one point where it's like, yeah, the migrants come here. They don't want to be deadbeats. They don't want to be spending, all their time just sitting in a shelter. They actually want to be able to find a way to transition to being a working thing here.
And
anyway,
there have been conversations about that previously, about how to best utilize and harness these resources here to help perform jobs and be useful and help, especially with so much of what we talk about here in Chicago with sorely needed city services and stuff. Wouldn't it be fascinating, Ed, if they could figure out a way to utilize a lot of these people who want to work to help improve the infrastructure that we're talking about all the time that needs construction, right?
Well, yeah,
that kind of work. I don't want to demean people to this being a sole role, but filling potholes, dealing with infrastructure. There are probably a lot of very talented, a lot of very, very talented construction people, craftsmen and stuff that can contribute tremendously to all the things that are sorely lacking that have been overlooked and basically put by the wayside.
So I know we spent quite a bit of time on this, but since it was kind of breaking news and I wanted us to, since we were covering the migrant crisis, I figured it was good for us to get a little more of an inside baseball perspective, as I said earlier. And so I hope you got something out of that at home, because it's not just a cut and dry thing. It's like, yeah, we do need to find them basically a big place where they can stay, but also they're going to need the support services, and they're going to need to be in a place that's not falling apart, because then that just creates more problems. But at least, and it sounds like they're making an effort here, and I hope they continue along this line for the migrants, because it felt like they really dropped the ball during Lightfoot's administration, and I was getting a little concerned that nothing was going to be happening with Brandon Johnson's administration, but it looks like they finally are making some moves there. And surprise as hell that Ray Lopez is leading the charge right now. But there we are. Okay. So moving on. I got a lot of stuff in here. We may skip some of these stories, but they're all in the show notes. If you, it's like on YouTube and Rockfin and some of the other platforms, there's links to the show notes. So if there's anything we don't cover in its entirety, you can always check those, and there might be links to articles and videos and stuff that you can watch at your leisure at another time. And before I get rolling on, I just want to remind you all that we really appreciate the people who support us financially here at Chicago Corner. And if you'd like to support us financially, you can head over to patreon.com/Chicago Corner. And if you are donating at least $5 a month to us, you have an additional opportunity to not just support us, but be a guest on our show. And that's a heck of a perk. And that's an opportunity you can do once a month if you want to. We're not pushing you to do it if you don't want to. You can.
We tried some alternative programming this weekend, doing a movie review show, so we wouldn't have to burden people in our regular programs to hear all our criticisms and commentary and excitement over pop culture and entertainment. But the idea of being able to bring our supporters, our Patreon supporters, in to co-host a program with us in its entirety also offers them the opportunity to come in and maybe offer things that they want to talk about too, to kind of mix things up here. In addition to some things we're exploring with maybe figuring out how we can bring some other new faces onto the network to share shows on other days of the week and maybe talk about different things or cover different topics, not just news. I want to also share that I kind of had a revelation this weekend that I shared with Ed. I'm tired of us identifying ourselves as like a news show. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're new. I think this is a talk show. I think it's driven by news. I think it's certainly driven by news and our coverage of news so that we can share the things that we observe that are important to us that we think people should be talking about. But I feel a little bit better about calling us a talk show than people saying, well, you guys are journalists. And it's like, I know we do a little bit of journalism, but not really. We're not trained like Kira is or some other people. So, that just speaks to this is a talk show. We hope a lot of our Patreons and supporters that want to come on, you don't just have to come on and talk about the news. Tell us what you want to talk about. I put a poll over on our Twitter, our first poll, where people can, share their opinions on, I forgot what the topics were in our poll, but we want to hear more from you and we want to hear more about what you all want to see. So.
Yeah. So and if you if you decide you have the opportunity, you want to take the opportunity to be a guest on the show, you can come on and speak your piece about just anything, just like this.
Would you consider yourself a revolutionary?
Well, no, but I do believe corporations rob us of our dignity and independence, and that these systems must be ripped down, burnt down, or leveled by any force necessary. But that's just one little bear's opinion.
I mean, you don't have to be as revolutionary as Boo Boo, but you could if you wanted to.
Yep.
So here we are. Next story. This monument to victims of Chicago Police Department torture receives $6.8 million in private funding. A grant from Mellon Foundation will pay for several new monuments, including one to survivors of former Commander John Burge and his infamous Midnight Crew. And this comes to us from Sun-Times' Dan Mihalopoulos, if I said that right.
How much money did they say they're going to commit to this?
Well, they got $6.8 million in private funding. I don't know how much.
That's a lot of money.
I don't know how much they're actually going to spend on the monument, but they got $6.8 million to start with.
Well, before we dive into this, let me just say something real quick. I understand some criticisms of, that's a lot of money that could go towards actually serving the community, much like the wasted money on renaming Lakeshore Drive. Mm-hmm. But I think it's very important, and I do believe that what Johnson is doing here is very important, because look at everybody like on social media bemoaning this. You know what? These victims deserve to be known. They deserve to be honored, and they should not be forgotten. If there's anything that I think, maybe it's a questionable expense. Mm-hmm. Not really. I mean, I think renaming Lakeshore Drive for virtue signaling purposes was a waste of money. This is not virtue signaling. This is reminding people in a memorial, this is not going to be tolerated anymore. And it just drives me crazy to see all the people on social media acting like, oh, he's wasting money. Here's an example of, where he talks about how we have to take care of things, but he's wasting money on a monument to police victims.
Yeah. Well, here
they completely miss the point of why that can't be forgotten and why it needs to be put there.
But what I understand from, and what I'm taking from this is that, well, it's private donors that are giving the money to this. And my thinking is, well, if they have $6.8 million to give to a monument, which to a tiny extent is virtue signaling, but is still deserved, they should still have $6.8 million to give to other things to help out the city. And it makes me
agree that, and I think he's going to.
And it makes me feel like some people have too much money.
Well, that's true too.
Sorry for the shock value. But yeah,
man, so look at those eyes, man. It's just empty, vapid. Those are the eyes of a sociopath. Looking right through you.
Here he is in his head. Gotta smile. Don't make it seem like anybody knows that that you're stealing all their money in Wall Street. Don't let anybody know that you're dead inside and you can't figure out how the hell you're gonna get out of this. Yeah.
Oh wait, that wasn't the one I was trying to do. Sorry.
What were we? We were trying to flip it over to the other thing. He's not a guest. That's why.
No. I was trying to emulate.
Oh, that's actually pretty close.
It's just a complete phony.
Oh,
he looks like a fucking sociopath, man. Nothing natural about that smile.
Jerry, let's
turn it on.
Let's get this in for the new opener. Okay, yeah. So Just brought, and he's not even in Illinois anymore, but this was an article of the richest billionaires in Illinois as of April 6th, 2023. And I think there's like 24 of them, but I've only got 20 listed in this article.
Yeah. Let me also address Warren's comment. A monument doesn't do squat for police victims. No, it doesn't. But you know what, Warren? A lot of those police victims were already paid out in $1 million lawsuits that the taxpayers had to cover for all of this abuse. So this is just like a cherry on the cake. A lot of the victims had filed civil suits and won very, very large judgments for what they endured and should have never had to go through. But the monument just reminds people of, we can't put up with this anymore.
And the reason why I'm jumping over to this article about billionaires is, people keep complaining that we have all these budget shortfalls and we can't afford to do stuff. And I'm like, whatever could we possibly do to bridge these budget shortfalls? Oh, golly, I don't want to keep harping on wealthy people and corporations. Oh, wait. Yes, I do. Because Jerry, we got 24 billionaires in Illinois. That's 24 billionaires too many.
Yeah.
And here, I don't know who Byron Trott is. Jerry Reinsdorf, we know who that is.
Is the guy who runs the Chicago Fire who got all that CHA land on this list? Or is he just
Jerry Reinsdorf owns a bunch of sports teams.
No, I know who Reinsdorf is, but I'm the Chicago Fire owner. I think he's a billionaire.
Oh, yes, actually, what's his name?
The asshole who got all the CHA land?
Joe Mansueto is
there he
8.
is. There's the piece of shit.
8. So just scrolling up really quick, you can see there's several Pritzkers on the list there.
Yeah.
JB is there, of course, at number 13. The two of the Uline family, you may be familiar with that.
They have the monopoly. They have the monopoly on shipping supplies. You can't really go anywhere else if you got to buy bulk shipping.
Yeah, and so apparently they live in Lake Forest, but their company is in Wisconsin, and so they're doing as much as they can to possibly tax dodge and keep from paying proper taxes. This is why they and a bunch of other people have been opposing a progressive income tax in Illinois, and that's part of why we have problems in Illinois is because everybody's paying that 4.5% or whatever the hell it is. Which is ridiculous. So yeah, Joe Mansueto at number 8. Sam Zell's dead now, so his kids are that billionaire.
They'll be fighting for that money.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. And Lucas Walton is number 1. Walmart family.
He lives in Illinois?
Apparently he lives in Chicago.
I did not know that. Wow. I did not know that.
Which is shocking to me why he would close all those locations. It's like,
is it?
You dummy.
No,
it's like
he was making he was punishing those communities because his candidate Palos Paul was not.
Yeah, it's petty, super petty. So, and I'm going to sort of flip over this one really quick. By head count of millionaires, Chicago is the 4th wealthiest city in the United States, and this article's from April of 2023. And here we are with Chicago has 124,000 high net worth individuals, including 295 centimillionaires, that's 10 million or more, and 24 billionaires, as we mentioned earlier. So seriously, I don't know. I keep like to bring out the billionaire piñata metaphor to just, keep bashing on them until all the money falls out, metaphorically, not physically. But I'm just saying, there's money in this state. We just have to redirect it to the places that matter. These people aren't doing anything other than sitting on it. That's not doing anyone any good.
As we're talking about this monument that is going to receive police funding that Johnson approved, I have I've got the WGN press conference opened up on this end from YouTube with Johnson fielding some questions. After you go through the story, it's a shorter video, but I can basically.
I mean, we could just do the video if you want.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Let me present the.
Yeah, it'll be a good test of your system not running Chrome right now.
Yeah, well, let's keep our fingers crossed. Share the tab audio. Yes. Let's see if this comes through.
Because really, the reason why I brought up this article in the first place was so I could bring up the other articles.
Well, but there's definitely correlation.
Sure.
Absolutely correlation. All right. Let's see if I can turn the audio up on this and start at the point where he accepts questions. I just think that this was like, it makes me laugh, all the people who were critical of this press conference, because it's like, I think he was firing on all cylinders, and this is very mayoral.
History, their art, and their culture.
We get to the question about the crime.
What it does. So this is part of a Hey, great.
The first is that we often talk about symbolic gestures, and usually it's kind of as a way of minimizing something. How will this really impact real people with real lives? And not just the Torture Justice Memorial, but the other new memorials that people will see.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Let's take a step back if we could. Some of you may recall that there was a concerted effort to make sure that the Chicago Public Schools, within its curriculum, taught the history of this very painful, horrific moment in our city's history. So this is part of a continuum of support to make sure that we are not simply exposing and educating people and the residents of the city of Chicago to how systems perpetuate oppression, but it's also important that we capture that history in a physical way. And
can't just pay the lawsuits and move on.
And what it does is it centers us, because when Anthony and others were being tortured, people were telling the truth, but no one believed them.
Yep.
You think about the history of Chicago.
We can't have that in a memorial, though, Ed. We don't want to remember that. That's a waste of money. That's what drives me crazy about these voices on social media, that right over their heads what he's speaking to and why this is important.
Chicago, another incredible organ.
Go ahead.
I just want to say I'm kind of liking his style during the press conferences, because it's very much like he's teaching.
Yep.
And I don't think the press pool is used to being educated.
That's right.
As opposed to being gaslighted.
Barked at and gaslit. Yeah.
Chairman Fred, he was telling the truth. And so the impact that it's going to have, it's not only educating a generation of how these systems fail and harm people, but we also have the ability to tell our stories with our art. See, when oppressors look to dominate people, they go after their history.
That's what all these critics on social media don't like, being reminded that they've basically enabled oppressors for so long. I don't even think they're aware of it, but they don't like being reminded of the fact that people have been oppressed for so long, because they live in their own bubbles of entitlement and feel that, like, other people's issues don't matter.
Their art and their culture. We're not going to do that in Chicago.
Yeah,
I think the next guy is William Kelly. Go ahead.
It's I think it makes a lot of people uncomfortable having to deal with restoration type efforts.
Restorative justice. Why should it, though? Can't we just acknowledge it happened and say it's not going to happen again? I didn't do it. I know people before me did. They were wrong. It's not a reflection on me because of the color of my skin. I got to stop taking it personally and recognize that there were white people before us that did bad things. It doesn't make us bad white people, and we can accept and acknowledge that without taking it so personally to like brunt it off and be like, we don't want to be reminded of this, man. Well, you're racist because you're basically broad stroking that all white people are prejudiced. No, they're not. But some are, and you can't forget that. Otherwise, that cycle perpetuates.
And let's clip that.
All right.
And I know we're talking about 8 new memorials, but we're also talking about one old one. If someone could...
Well, let me jump ahead to the question on violence from the weekend, though, because I think he handled that pretty handily. And I think it comes towards the end here when he takes questions. Let's see if I've got it queued up.
Lead to the type of side grilling, rut, this destruction of public house.
Chicago, there were...
Here we go.
As we all should.
I'm guessing that this is definitely William Kelly.
It's got to be William Kelly.
It's got to be because of how gracious he is welcoming him back.
That there was a community process, and
here comes.
I'm going to continue to provide as much space and as room as necessary in order to make sure that the community, the people of Chicago, get to help provide that direction. As I've said repeatedly, I'm not a dictator. I'm an organizer, right? And we get to organize around our values. And today is a reflection of effective organizing around our values.
Regarding a monument. So, of course, let's bring up this weekend's crime.
Mayor, first of all, let me just say that I aspire to dress the sharp.
As we all should. And welcome back. I'm glad you're healthy and strong.
Good to see you.
We missed you.
It's good to be back.
He's been so, and let's give our viewers some quick history on that. William Kelly had been banned because Lori Lightfoot didn't like the questions he was asking her. Okay, Lightfoot's gone. They've reopened the press room and said, "Hey, man, everybody can come in and ask questions. Tougher, friendly or hostile." I mean, I would say, at least in this situation, Kelly wasn't openly hostile as he was with Lightfoot in the past, but there was some history that preceded that. But he did ask kind of a tough question, and I love Johnson's response here.
On a serious note, another violent weekend in Chicago. There were, including the incident of Father's Day.
Quickly, do you think this is the right spot to ask? Well, I guess he did open it for open questions. It wasn't just about the monument. So
yeah, there were 5 people were shot. Your 5th district commander said, quote, "Violence prevails in the city of Chicago." Can you talk about what you've done in your short time in office to end people's sense that violence is prevailing?
At least he acknowledged it's a short time in office. And here comes Brandon Johnson's teaching moment.
Look, I knew what I was inheriting when I became the mayor of the city of Chicago. I knew it. We've all have known the pain of trauma and disinvestment and the impact that has had in communities that have experienced torture, redlining, school closures, destruction of public housing. You see where I'm going?
You see where he's going? All the places nobody wants to acknowledge when they say just throw everybody in jail, which is not it's not solving, it's not stopping crime. Yes, you have to incarcerate those involved in violent crime. But if you don't get to the root causes, all of which he just stated here, which aren't going to be an overnight solution, Mr. Kelly, or Chicago contrarian, who I also see belly aching on Twitter all the time. Like, Brandon was supposed to put on a cape and suddenly crime was going to go away overnight, right? Like the Rota Destroyer did. Anyway, let him continue.
What's more prevailing is the disinvestment. Like, I grew up in the 90s when 900 people getting murdered a year. It was brutal. And there were black men and women who were being tortured. Now, many of you all know that I'm raising my family in one of those neighborhoods. Here's what we have to remind ourselves. That if we're going to get ourselves out of this rut, it's going to take all of us. I appreciate you directing the question to me. I understand my responsibility. But if anyone tells you that they can single-handedly shift the political mindset that has led to the type of disinvestment that is causing the outbreak of the violence that we are all experiencing, if any one person says that they can do that, they're not being honest. That's right. Now, look, we had the Hyde Park Fest yesterday and the day before. It's beautiful. People are still outside.
I mean, that's really the point I wanted to make. Not to cut him off too short, because I think he's a very eloquent speaker. But absolutely 100% right. And still it's going to go over people's heads who aren't listening. and processing.
No, well, and I think what it is that people want to hear, like, what's happening now? What are you doing specifically now to deal with the crime that's happening now? And
In
they
a month.
they want that sound bite. They want to know what specifically he's doing with all the little intricacies with how he's coordinating with the police and all this other stuff. And I think he had a little bit of that in his interview with talking about what the police were doing, but I don't imagine we're gonna get much out of like what are they doing to stop the shootings type situation until until he's got his entire team in place. We still realize, some people don't realize that he's still working with a provisional team right now. Some of them may not be around for much longer. I've got a couple of them on our Brandon bingo card that I don't expect to be around much longer. I'm amazed that Dorval Carter is still kicking around CTA, to be honest with you. Even though, I mean, we do have some stories regarding that, but it's like, holy crap.
Dominic shares in the chat from constituent polling, polling.org. Sorry, why is this not showing on? Okay, here we go. Is this a monument that reveals the shameful lack of control and accountability of our politicians over the people that hire and pay our police? Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, so I'm seeing some comments over on Rockfin from Leonard Trust Fund. And
hey, look, welcome Rockfin viewers.
Yeah.
We're glad you tuned in.
Now he says this is democide by Democrats for decades. Get the fuck out of here. I would agree. Yes, democide. But I would also opine, Leonard, that I don't really see a big difference between our big corporate, big business Dems and pro-corporate, big business Republicans. I think that, as Ed has shared in the past, they're all the same. They're on the same team. It's the green team. It's not the Green Party. It's the money party. Leonard also shares it's an overnight solution. Get rid of the entire corrupt machine. Yeah, but I'm curious to know if you thought Palos Paul was the solution, which would have further abandon what's happening on the south and west sides and a lot of these communities we're talking about. I'm curious, Leonard, if you feel that Brandon is an improvement over Lori and you're going to give him some time to prove himself, or if you've just dismissed him because he's a Democrat or because he ran as a Democrat. Leonard Trust Fund, and I'm sorry I can't pop your comments up because I'm operating this through our StreamYard. Leonard also said the solution for Black lives to be saved in Chicago is not political, nor will it ever happen in its current structure.
Okay.
Gary's democide. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking, mutual aid and other types of structures, outside of the political solutions. And yeah, you're correct there. There's
one other thing.
You can't expect everything to happen you can't expect political solutions to be the solution for everything. And especially on the local level, you have a little more leverage with pressuring your local officials to do the things that you need, as opposed to the national, which is just a cluster fudge right now. I don't know where the hell I was going with that.
Leonard also says, stop lying to America about what really happens in Chicago. Leonard,
what really happens?
I don't know how long you've been watching our program, or if you're a new viewer, or because if you've been watching us for the past couple of years that Ed and I have been hosting this program, I don't think we've been lying to America about what happens in Chicago. No. I think we've been very, very we've demanded accountability from Democrats like Lightfoot and Rahm. I mean, that's literally driven our
program. I mean, is that what you're getting out of this? That you think that we're
giving Johnson a chance now because he's not cut from the same fabric?
We're trying to be as even-keeled and positive as we can about the new administration until we really have a reason to get mad about it, because the last 3 mayoral administrations were a nightmare. And so, I'm willing to give them a chance. I understand some people aren't as forgiving or a little more knee-jerk in the reactions to what they're doing going forward. And part of me still feels he's moving too slow on some stuff. But I'm still cutting him some slack because we realize he's only been in office for a month and a half, not even.
Well, I think people also are not giving him any leeway because he had to run as a Democrat, because you can't run as a Republican in Chicago. Not that he would run as I don't even know that Johnson's a Democrat as much as he's a progressive. And it's like Palos Paul, I'm a Democrat. No, you're not. You're a Republican. Brandon Johnson, he's a progressive, ran as a Democrat. He's not a Democrat like Lori Lightfoot or Rahm Emanuel or Rich Daley before him. Not by any stretch of the imagination. But that's the party he chose to run under, right? Because at one time, Democrats used to be aligned with the working class, as he has affiliations to the teachers union and a lot of other unions throughout Chicago that have been as abandoned as much as the South and West Side neighborhoods that, the Democide has unfortunately caused all these problems for.
Now he's posting an article to a New York Daily News article about Hadia Pendleton, and I don't know what exactly your point is there. I don't know what you're getting at.
Leonard, you know what? Support us as a Patreon for $5 a month, and you're welcome to come on the show so we can talk about this, because I am really
I'm wondering.
Right?
I'm wondering where your head's at there.
And I understand where his head is, and I agree with some of it. This idea that the Democrats were going to save Chicago. That's what Rahm Emanuel ran on. That's what Lori Lightfoot ran on. And they were both corporate neoliberal phonies that were really more pro-Republican policy than actual working class advocates. So I think that Brandon Johnson is a working class advocate who ran as a Democrat. And we do have to give him time. And Leonard, we've said many times on this program, the moment Brandon Johnson gives us a reason to criticize him, he's only been in office a month now, we will criticize him. We don't hold back here. I was supportive of another candidate here in Chicago who I believed, because I thought he had a lot of really, really good platform solutions. And then once he lost the primary, he went and aligned himself with Palos Paul, which I felt had more to do with his own self-serving agenda than actually aligning with the people he claimed he wanted to represent and advocate for. And boy, oh boy, was I wrong, and I admitted it. And I'm, as I was watching this video of Johnson, Ed, speaking at this press conference, I'm actually ashamed of myself that I didn't get it earlier, because I'm really, really very, very impressed with him, and I hope that we're right. Again, we're in the honeymoon phase right now, but I do think, I just feel calmer, especially in the way that, as you mentioned, he's teaching the press, he's teaching the people things that gets lost in all of the people yelling at each other about who should get this and who should get that and who doesn't deserve this or that. Okay. And he's bringing people together.
Okay, clearly you're talking about something personal that happened to you. We're no fans of Barack Obama either. He was a huge disappointment. Basically just a tool of the banks, in my opinion.
Again, I don't think Leonard's watched the show long enough to hear us critical about it.
But we're not. But if you're coming on this show to hear us speak of every person who lost their life in Chicago, you're going to be waiting a while, because we don't bring them all up. We got tired of having to talk about it for a while. And I don't like covering the stories when every week it's just another person got shot. Right. And if it, although there have been times where we've talked about people who have lost their lives due to police misconduct and all kinds of other things. We talked about 16 shots in a cover-up. We criticize when we feel that we need to bring the story up and criticize, but we're just a small little rinky-dink outfit here.
And who really cares what we have to say anyway? So,
and I'm impressed that you care that we have opinions on anything.
I am actually grateful for that.
Yeah. But
constituent Dominic shares Johnson is a Democrat for sure when he endorsed Biden for president. Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what, Dominic? I'm curious to see who Brandon Johnson will support if Cornel West actually gets shit and gear to run as a Green third party.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. I would.
Yeah, it's going to be a ballot access game there.
Because Cornel West is more aligned with what I believe Brandon Johnson is about than Biden is with Johnson. But of course, Bidens are holding power right now. Look, all kinds of politics being played back and forth. You have to play some of that game, and that's what sucks. Yeah, it does need to be burned all down because it's so corrupt, and everybody's got to do the deals to have the access and get shit done. But as we mentioned, it's incremental, and he's taking the steps, and we think that they're steps in the right direction so far.
And so, and in case it wasn't clear, and maybe you just don't watch enough of our programs, I use hashtag dump the duopoly all the time. I have a website called volcanoparty.org, where the solution basically is, at least number one solution on that page, is to drop Congress into a volcano. I don't specify red or blue because they're in cahoots together. It's a kayfabe duopoly. They don't care about any of us. And I don't think that we're going to get anywhere until we break that duopoly. And so if we have an opportunity to get somebody running on a third-party ballot in a majority of the states, I think I might support that.
I want to come back to Dominic's comment.
But just really quick. But Leonard, yes, you're correct. Politics isn't the solution. There's got to be structures and organizations and organizing done outside of politics to make sure that people are supporting each other.
And I know for a fact Leonard hasn't watched our show because he says, I don't hear you question the Democrat-run justice system that doesn't prosecute one murder for certain lives in Chicago unless you know someone who knows someone who knows someone to somebody. Yeah, we do. We have in the past. We're very critical of Kim Foxx's service as a prosecutor.
Oh, we had a whole conversation about that, especially right when she had decided that she was going to resign. It's like we talked about the pluses and minuses of that, and
no, there's a complete inequity, Leonard, and we've talked about that a lot. I hope you watch us more. I mean, look, there's a whole 2 years archive of our shows. I don't know how easy it is to point you to which episode we talked about that. Comes up in conversation on our coverage. But to Dominic's comment here, Johnson's a Democrat for sure when he endorsed Biden for president. Yeah, well, he ran as a Democrat in Illinois because that was probably the best strategy to get to the mayor's office. And he's got to play ball with the Democrats who want to come to Chicago and have their convention here. I'm not happy about that at all.
No.
I mean, I'm not at all. I mean, that's an example of like, you basically got to bend over and take it, by those who are at the top who, Chicago and Illinois and Cook County, it's a Democratic state, Democratic city, Democratic county. What's he going to do, Dominic? Honestly, if you have a strategy for how you thought Johnson should have handled the Democratic convention coming to Chicago, or not endorse Joe Biden in light of the fact they want to come have their convention in Chicago, I'm all ears. I wish I could figure out a strategy for how to tell the Democrats, go fuck yourselves. You're not welcome here. But
and it's not a shock that Brandon Johnson is going to basically, try to get along with everybody, because that's kind of the way he operates. He's going to try to find ways to make things work, and he's not going to alienate support from national Democrats because we need the federal funds,
which is very much in line, Ed. Which is why this election reflected a lot of history, past as prologue. Remember another Democrat who said, "Oh no, I'm not going to start dividing up the table for special interests." Blacks in Chicago now get everything. I'm going to make sure everybody eats. Whites, blacks, Hispanics, everybody. And I think that's the way that Johnson is governing. It chooses to bring people together.
Yeah. I don't think there's going to be any pleasing Leonard trust fund, and sorry about that, man. There's not, we can't all get as deep into some of these conversations.
I've watched the show for 2 years, and most of the time I can't stomach it because hold on, that you can't get to the real root of all that goes on in Chicago. Really? When? How?
I've only seen you chime in on a couple chats on Rockfin, so I'm a little. I feel it's a little spurious to even assume that you're watching us on a regular basis unless you're just trying to.
Well, I'll believe him, Ed. I'm not going to call the man a liar. But honestly, if that's what if you've watched us for 2 years, even if you're watching,
do? Tune in for 30 seconds and get the wrong impression.
Yeah, or once every other week, even. I don't know how anybody watching this show could think that we're apologists for the Democrats or apologists or propping up Brandon Johnson because he's a Democrat. I'm propping him up because he's a progressive and because he's probably trying to bring people together and because he's not like Lori Lightfoot or Rahm Emanuel. And if he proves that he pulls the rug out from under us the way Lightfoot did, believe me, Leonard, we're going to come out fucking guns blazing. Okay. As I was very critical and dismissive of another certain candidate who it disappointed me extremely, despite the fact I think he's a smart guy. And I was impressed by a lot of the things that he had to share in the primary here. But anyway, Leonard, we wish you well. I'm really glad that you're contributing to the conversation. And again, be interesting to have you on the show to discuss this stuff and hear specifically what you're pointing to in a more detailed examination. So we got to move on with our show notes and the rest of the program.
I mean, and look, and let me make a recommendation for you because it sounds like maybe we're not your cup of tea. Go watch the Revolutionary Blackout Network.
I love Revolutionary Blackout Network
because they're great. They take they do a lot of community service stuff. They do charitable works. Rome is building a library in Detroit. They have a lot more opinions on a lot of the more activist type stuff, and they probably have brains with slightly less Swiss cheese holes than mine. Sometimes mine works on full throttle, and other times I'm just trying to piece two words together. And so I appreciate people bearing with me when I do my Tuesday shows. And I thank all of you for tuning in because we're just trying to be entertaining and provide some information. And we may not have the analysis that you particularly care for, but we have our analysis, and we always invite you to join us in the live chat to give us your 2 cents. So thanks for watching.
That's what the show's about.
So with that said, okay. I'm just going to sum up the monuments story since we're getting close to 9 o'clock here. The Mellon Foundation launched its monuments project in 2020 and vowed to spend $250 million over 5 years, quote, to reimagine and rebuild the commemorative spaces and transform the way history is told in the United States. The new grant to Chicago is the initiative's largest grant to this point, according to city officials. Now, so it says the funding from Mellon Foundation will also help 7 other projects, including efforts to commemorate the 1919 Chicago race riots, labor activist Mother Jones, and Native Americans. Let's see. Yeah, there's not much more I want to cover in there. If you guys,
I mean, I think we kind of covered. I think Johnson's press conference kind of went through. Yeah, we don't have to read through this, so we can move on to the next story.
Okay, I'm moving on to this. As ComEd faces scrutiny, municipalization advocates appeal to Johnson. And we've talked about this in the past.
Yep.
With the
for those who've been watching us for a long time.
Democratize ComEd, where basically they want to turn ComEd into a municipal electrical system, which would be way better because it won't have a profit motive. And so it would result in us getting much more affordable energy costs. So here, a ComEd agreement that leads to municipalization or gives a city more leverage will require significant political will. And this comes to us from Southside Weekly by Matthew Murphy. For over 100 years, ComEd has delivered Chicago its electricity. The relationship is so old that the Edison in the name refers to Thomas Edison, who at one point owned the company. Today, for only the second time since 1948, the contract governing that relationship, the franchise agreement, is due to be renegotiated. With ComEd making record profits even as it reels from federal corruption investigation, the utility is facing calls for greater accountability and control by Chicago residents. For the Brandon Johnson administration, negotiating a new agreement in line with these calls will require significant political will. This could include action in the state legislature or concrete steps toward municipalization, the public ownership of ComEd's facilities. But whatever form it takes, the new franchise agreement will determine the course of a once-in-a-generation opportunity to redefine the city's relationship with ComEd. In December 2020, the previous ComEd franchise agreement signed by Mayor Richard M. Daley in 1992, wow, that was a long time ago, expired. After 2 years of negotiations with Mayor Lori Lightfoot's administration, in January 2023, Lightfoot announced a proposed agreement with a company that she heralded as the, quote, strongest municipal utility franchise deal in the country. Who said that?
Someone who was imitating Lori Lightfoot.
Oh, it wasn't me. Highlights included $520 million in community benefit projects, a new West Side Clean Energy training hub, and the training of more than 10,000 students for jobs in clean energy over the course of a shorter 15-year deal. The proposal was quickly delayed by a skeptical city council concerned by its length, the proposed pause on municipalization. Yeah, that was the problem I had with it. And they were going to call it like what a 5-year cooling off period or something stupid like that.
You know what I would call it?
Blowjob! Blowjob! Blowjob!
Yeah, that's what I'd call that too. Yeah. Oh, your mic's back now. Okay. So we're getting to that part of the show where Jerry's videos start playing on a slight delay. But that's okay.
Two windows open and we got the anyway.
Okay. All right. A potential win for the mayor before the 2023 mayoral election became dead weight. By February, when Lightfoot failed to advance beyond the primary, the two remaining contenders were calling for a new deal negotiated by a new mayor. Yeah, which is what we should have done anyway. She shouldn't have done anything. She should have waited. Yep. Mayor-elect Johnson has not commented publicly on the specific changes he seeks from the previous administration's deal. The mayor's office did not respond to the weekly's request for comment. But that's disappointing. But with Johnson's powerful promises of a just green energy transition, city decarbonization by 2040, and the, quote, exploration of municipalization, a new deal would need to be significantly tougher on ComEd. Now,
Yes!
now I'm stopping.
We can only hope.
I'm stopping in the middle article here just to say that I'm more concerned with how J.B. Pritzker is going to react to an effort to municipalize, because he's friends with way too many people at ComEd.
Yeah.
And he may be a roadblock to municipalization unless people put enough pressure on him. Okay. It says, yet the city, quote, does not have a lot of leverage, especially given the state legislature's outsized role in regulation, according to Abe Scar, director at Illinois PIRG, a citizen-funded public interest group in Illinois. As the largest electricity provider in the state and a subsidiary of the massive Exelon company, ComEd is a formidable bargaining partner. Its previous franchise agreements have lasted decades, giving the city very little wiggle room to make changes or exact concessions. I don't understand why they have little wiggle room. The contract is up. That should be plenty. Plenty of leverage there.
Finished. The rest of us have to follow contracts and abide by them. So should they. Why and why aren't they? Because they're better than us. They're special. They've got a lot of money. We're peasants, peons.
Yeah.
Fuck ComEd.
Over the last 10 years, ComEd has seen its profits rise exponentially with a series of legislative victories in Springfield, expanding its ability to set favorable rates and avoid regulatory oversight. According to Scar, ComEd got what they wanted at the legislature after the scandal. They made out like bandits. This has been exacerbated by inaction from lawmakers, despite ComEd's recent history of corruption and bribery. In 2020, a federal investigation revealed an extensive bribery scheme in which former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan and leadership at ComEd conspired to pass legislation beneficial to the company.
Who was that? Michael Madigan?
Yeah.
What an asshole.
Yeah. At that time, ComEd paid a $200 million fine in a deferred prosecution agreement. But other key players continue to be enmeshed. E-N-M-E-S-H-E-D, enmeshed. That's our word of the day. In further litigation. The ComEd 4 trial wrapped up this May with a guilty verdict for all defendants who were key leaders and powerful lobbyists for the utility, including former CEO Ann Pramaggiore for conspiracy, bribery, and falsification of records. A separate trial for Madigan is set to begin next year in 2024.
Hey, before you go on with this, and I want you to finish the story, I want to quickly ask, Leonard, if you're still watching on Rockfin, let me know, because after Ed finishes this story, I want to share a quick video with you that we've shared before, but I don't think you saw. So, Leonard, let us know if you're there. If you are, I'll play the video. If not, I'll save it for another time. But continue, Ed.
Okay. I'm actually I'm starting to tune out to this article too. I'm trying to get to the point here. Okay. They had where is it? Oh, here we go. Encapsulating. That's okay. Encapsulating both ComEd's enduring power and the uphill battle the Johnson administration faces is the 2011 Energy Infrastructure Modernization Act, or the EIMA, also known as the Smart Grid Law. Oh, remember that? The Smart Grid Law? The EIMA upgraded Chicago's dated energy grid, but it came to be one of the major pieces of legislation at the heart of the ComEd bribery scandal when it was revealed that revamping of the rate system had significantly increased ComEd's profits. Gee, there's a shock. Hey, I got an idea to significantly increase our profits. Let's just call it a smart grid. And the smart part is that we got the grid fudging the numbers for us.
Get out. And don't come back.
Exactly. The legislation introduced the, quote, formula rate setting system, which allowed ComEd to charge 37% more for delivery service over 10 years, adding $5 billion to its rate base, according to a 2020 report from Illinois PIRG. The bill passed despite opposition from numerous consumer groups, then Governor Pat Quinn, whose veto was overridden, and Madigan's daughter, then Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan.
Who was there for a reason.
She opposed it. That's correct. I mean, yeah. So it's like, I don't know.
Well,
ComEd, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I didn't know that she opposed it.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Okay. Well, we can't claim that all the kids are like the corrupt parents. So that was a good thing she did.
Yeah, I guess she was in a position where she had no choice but to oppose it as the Attorney General. But it would have looked really hinky.
Yeah,
if she hadn't.
So, although I wish my finger had been quicker on the trigger as we were talking about Dems in Illinois, Ed, to speak to Leonard's concerns, because I do want to share this quickly with our audience. I mean, I shared this a week or two ago when I was reminded of it, and I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty demonstrative. He's here. Okay, Leonard, this is for you, because you know what? We agree.
Any questions?
4 years ago, you promised us federal funding to rebuild our community. What happened?
Well, what happened was that we all knew that was going to be big news for a while, so we all came down here, Bush, Clinton, Wilson, all of us. We got our pictures taken, told you what you wanted to hear, and we pretty much forgot about it.
We can't get health insurance, fire insurance, life insurance. Why haven't you come out for Senate Bill 2720?
Well, because you haven't really contributed any money to my campaign, have you? You got any idea how much these insurance companies come up with? They pretty much depend on me to get a bill like that and bottle it up in my committee during an election, and in that way, we can kill it when you're not looking.
Are you saying the Democratic Party don't care about...
Oh, you stopped it early though.
I did, but
Jerry.
that was the Democratic Party back in the 90s.
They haven't changed. They haven't changed much.
I mean, I think that. Yeah, I mean, look, that's a comedy I recommend everybody go see. Bullworth, directed and starring Warren Beatty, but he was pretty critical of his. I mean, as a liberal back in the 90s, he saw the shit that was going on. I'm still amazed that he got that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think he could have made that movie today. But also it's not an easy movie to find. And I think there's a reason for it because it pretty much reflects nothing's changed. And he maybe had, his finger on the button of like recognizing it a lot earlier than, our news cycle's been able to propagandize people as if, the Dems aren't as bad as Republicans. It's not just a duopoly that's serving themselves, not us. So anyway, that was for you.
And it just so happens that in Illinois, and I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar, that it's a blue state, Illinois. Well, at least politically, it's a blue state. Except for maybe places south of Chicago, where they might have more. But it's a duopoly, though. Because I call it a blue state, but essentially it just means it's a corporate state run by money blue, whereas occasionally money red gets to run the show. But it's all the same. It's all the same players. All they do is they just
serve their donors, blow their donors, fillet their donors at the expense of what everyone else needs. That we hope that we've elected them to like represent us and help us in all communities.
Yeah. And so we get frustrated about a lot of the corruption that goes on in the city, and a lot of us grew up with it. It doesn't condone it, but we're kind of used to seeing it.
We were numb to it, Ed. I mean, we were gaslit. I've told this story a couple of times. I spent 11 years in California. I did not really realize how horribly corrupt Chicago was until I was away from it and looked at the news cycle. I'm like, oh, everybody just accepted it there because we thought that that's just the way things are. You leave the state of Illinois, you're like, no, that shit isn't tolerated in other cities. Not that Los Angeles is any, at least now, any great example. But back then, it's like, public, that kind of corruption was not tolerated. There was more, where I was out in California, I'm like, actually people are held accountable in ways they aren't in Chicago or Cook County. So.
Yeah, and so you'll find that we cover local election stuff because we think it's it's something that people want to get information and different perspectives on. It doesn't mean that we're condoning the corruption. It doesn't mean that we like one party better than the other. They're both garbage parties, and sadly. When it comes to like the mayoral races, you kind of have to run Dem or you get typically run out of town.
That's why Paul wouldn't run as a Republican. He knew he'd never win. So he pretended he was a Democrat, even though it was very clear he was a Republican.
Yeah.
Another lie that demonstrated the fact that he's willing to lie and say anything that he can to get elected, not even live here, aside from like renting a bachelor pad in Bridgeport, which I think is back on the market now that the election is over with.
Yeah, and the truth is that it's varying degrees of how much you're going to bend to corporations. Are you going to be a mayor who is working with companies and corporations because it's good for the economy, or are you working with companies and corporations because they're throwing you a kickback and they're giving you special favors, which may or may not be good for the city?
You mean, Ed, perhaps like NASCAR was? I mean, I think that we've said a couple times we feel that there's got to be some kickback there that I hope in time we're going to find out about, that we can really hold the prior administration.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. You will stop speaking. You will stop speaking. You're full of crap. And that's the nicest thing that I can say.
Did I just get cut off?
No, you're good.
Or the CHA deal? Anyway.
Yeah, so
CHA deal with the Chicago Fire.
Yeah, public housing being sold off for soccer practice fields. That's not cool.
Leonard shared really quickly. I want to follow up. Thank you, Leonard. Okay, agreed. It's an entirely corrupt state, and the Republicans play their part and use fear and division. Thank you. Exactly. To keep their places in the government, but the Democrats literally use abuse torture and murder.
Yep.
Not disagreeing.
Yep.
Not
That's
disagreeing.
correct.
Black Chicagoans as political cannon fodder. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not right.
What do you think, Oreo?
I think Oreo thinks we need to finish this story and get on to the next one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because look, I know, like I kind of threw a wrench in my own show tonight because we were covering the migrant updates at the front end of it. But I'm gonna try to get through the rest of this without getting us to midnight tonight. You know,
We won't go.
Although some of you may not realize that Friday's show was definitely the longest live stream we've ever done.
It was a marathon.
Yeah.
Leonard, I'm seeing your comments on Rockfin. I agree. We do have to move on, but one other, lastly, Leonard, I agree. If Dems didn't have the poor conditions of black life, they blame on Republicans or violence to peddle, they'd have nothing. Yeah, both sides. And then you've got the Republicans who want to throw you all in jail because they're not willing to address the root causes that Johnson was talking about in that press conference. It's not going to be solved overnight. I think that we all need to like recognize that. All right, Ed, you take.
Okay, so here, let me get to the bottom here. Here. Oh, this is the part I wanted here. For SCAR, municipalization, quote, certainly has some momentum. That said, I don't think ComEd sees it as a viable threat. Regardless of whether the Johnson team takes this path, changing the status quo will require a marshaling of significant political leverage. We look forward to working with the new administration to negotiate an agreement that meets our shared goals for a cleaner, healthier energy future, ComEd said in a statement. That was them basically doing their version of Brandon Johnson. You know.
Oh my God!
Better, stronger, safer Chicago, right?
I just looked at the show notes and I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah. So
we're halfway through the first page with 1, 2, 3.
All right. Now, I mean, to be fair, my show notes contain a lot of supporting documents that I decide during the show whether I'm going to use them or not.
All right. That's good.
So, like, I mean, for example, I've got several supporting articles from the Citizens Utility Board just because I wanted to show what the current delivery rates are, just so we get an idea on, you know, it's like
those are weeds we don't need to get into though. But the link is there though, so people can go take a look.
Yeah. So while I was scrolling it up, we don't have to look at it. And then I did want to briefly talk about this that some people may not be aware that ComEd offers rebates for things if you're going to be upgrading stuff using electricity. And the one thing I wanted to point out was if any of you are interested in getting one of those electric induction cooktops, some of them are now under $100, and ComEd's offering $100 rebate on those cooktops right now. So you could theoretically get one for free right now. So I just wanted to point that out to you. And you could probably, I think ComEd has a link on their website to where their rebates are for that stuff. So you can just go to ComEd's website for that. Okay, what else? The natural gas rates. I think the thing I wanted to point out on there was that Citizens Utility Board was scratching their heads as to why Liberty, one of the gas providers, was way higher than all the other natural gas providers, most of whom their prices per therm actually went down. So it might be a little cheaper for a natural gas now than it was last year. So, speaking of electric, I just talked to gas. I'm all over the place tonight, but I got a plan, and it's in the show notes. Oh, is my stream starting to break up over there?
It is. I'm noticing it here, and I thought maybe it was my connection, but yeah, there's.
Let me try. Yeah, let me try something really quick, and I will be right back.
All right. Until Ed returns, ladies and gentlemen.
Where the hell is it? Okay. Since my tiny little camera is not going to be really full screen for very long, I decided to just lower my bandwidth just a little bit. Maybe it will help out a little. But I don't know. We'll see. Am I coming through loud and clear over there, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah, I don't want to rush you, but I think we do need to pick up the pace because I got to get to a pharmacy and take Warren's advice and get myself some Doan's pills.
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Okay, so CTA is going to be doubling their all-electric bus fleet, so that's good news. Agency has purchased 22 new all-electric buses as part of efforts to advance its charging forward plan. I still think they need to fire Dorval Carter, though. So it's not gonna save you, Dorval. And I did, let's see. Oh, we're up to, what is Cam Buckner up to these days since he went back to being a state rep? And the answer is a whole bunch of stuff. Now, this is from the Hyde Park Herald, June 14th. I hope you're all hearing me and seeing Oreo.
The cat cam up.
We got to put the cat cam up. Hold on. How do we do that? I'm going to do this one. No, not that one.
No, it's okay. I just changed
Okay.
a little. I just changed my camera view. I didn't want to interrupt anything. I just figured
Oh,
it's more interesting
okay.
to look at Oreo.
It is. It is because Oreo is riveted by this live stream tonight. Hyde Park, Kenwood State Representative Cam Buckner, Democrat of the 26th District, just wrapped up the spring legislative session sponsoring bills that improve roads for pedestrians and cyclists and measures that reform the property tax system. Let's see. Where's the part I wanted to? He was going to talk about the stuff that he managed to do here. And he said, among one of Buckner's biggest legislative achievements this session was a property tax measure. Yes, supports Hyde Park Herald. He sponsored that would reform the state system for selling delinquent property taxes. Measures backed by the Cook County Treasurer's Office. He says people are losing their homes because they have not been able to pay their property taxes, and out-of-state buyers come and buy the tax up.
Ed,
Yeah.
can I read this? Because we're getting every other word from you.
Are you guys hearing me okay? Are you hearing Jerry okay?
You're breaking up like Mr. Roboto.
All right.
I
ahead,
just
Jerry.
figured let me just finish reading this article just so it's not as broken up. And people can get the substance, because if they're only hearing like one or two other words. So where did you leave off?
Where people are losing their homes.
All right. So he went on to say people are losing their homes because they've not been able to pay their property taxes, and out-of-state buyers come in and buy the taxes up from under a family. Then they own the home, but they often never try to put money back in the home. And often they use loopholes to back out of those purchases, Buckner said. So many of our communities in South Shore and Woodlawn are two really good examples where investment has slowed down, development has slowed down. The measure aims to try and find out an easier way to make that people can get back in their homes and not have these unscrupulous tax buyers sitting on their properties and once again denying development in the community, Buckner said. We've reported on this in the past ourselves. And, I've said it before. Buckner really impressed me during the primary here in Chicago. And I believe that I remember we reported on the fact that Mayor Johnson had extended a hand to Cam And I think he's doing some good work downstate that's also going to help benefit Chicago. And this is an example of that. He didn't just check out after the primary and go share rap videos on TikTok and Instagram as other candidates have. Let's get a sound check from Ed.
Check 1, 2.
I'll let you pick. Yeah. I mean, if you want to do it from behind the icon, let's see if that works without your audio breaking up.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping that if I turn off the video, that's going to help us a little bit with my audio.
Okay. So we're going to just have to listen to Ed's disembodied voice right now.
Yes, I'm floating in the ether because Xfinity is pissing me off right now.
Ah, you're having a Jerry moment.
I know. It's. I mean, I'm way more irritated than I actually sound about this situation because it should not be happening.
Nope.
Right
on either
now.
end.
All right. I don't know where we left off.
So we left off at development has slowed down. Continuing with the measure aims to try and find an easier way.
Not seeing that.
Scroll down. Oh no, scroll up. Let's pick it up from the General Assembly passed an $80 billion budget.
Oh, okay, I see it. Okay. Yeah, the General Assembly passed a $50 billion budget on May 26th, during which Buckner said he carried the transportation omnibus, which does a lot of things, but hopefully will improve service and improve the way that RTA is governed. Okay, so maybe we're waiting to see what all of those updates to the RTA are before we figure out what changes to the CTA are going to be made. Because isn't the RTA basically in charge of the CTA? Sort of.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Isn't the RTA kind of like a head of the CTA, sort of?
I think it's a different. No, it's a different entity than CTA. They're two separate entities.
But I thought you had that the RTA, that the CTA gets its funds from RTA or something. I don't know. We're going to have to look into that. Maybe we can get Cam Buckner on to explain it to us.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. So, come on the show, Cam, when our stream is reacting properly.
And my fingers were not fast on the buttons enough when I was referencing other candidates who are just jumping onto TikTok and Instagram and showing rap videos and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. So let's see.
Let's get back to someone who's actually doing stuff.
Yeah. Regarding transportation, several bills introduced by Buckner this year, including 3 bills that I don't know what they are, would make roads safer for pedestrians and cyclists. The bills would lower the default speed limit, allow bikers to not make a complete stop at stop signs, and create a rebate for people purchasing electric bikes. I know Jerry may have some issues with some of those things. Comcast is the slowest high-speed internet you can't afford. So correct. Seriously, Xfinity, what the hell? I shouldn't have a signal thing at 1 bar here. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay. That really was spurred by the deaths of 3 young Chicagoans during my mayoral campaign, Buckner said. He noted Elizabeth Grace Lily Shambrook, Raphael Rafi Cardenas, and Jaylon James, all bikers under the age of 8 who were killed by automobiles. Yeah, I would say he's wanting some more safety measures to be put in place. Okay, I get it. Let's see, what else is there in this article? He had a reproductive rights and gender affirming care omnibus bill. What else? A resolution that urges the General Assembly to address gun violence in Illinois through comprehensive policy change and support proper appropriations for victim services. It's just a resolution, so I don't know what that does, other than saying we should think about this. officially. Okay. I'm looking for anything else that stands.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
All right, let's see if I can get my mobile hotspot working. God damn it. Son of a...
Papal Penguin Gaming, I don't think that Zentro serves my area. I think that you had reached out to me and I looked into it when I was having issues. So our limitations are the fact that Comcrap Excrementfinity has a monopoly and RCN kind of like, picks up the service in some areas, but they're not as reliable all the time either. We don't have fiber in this area. I was shocked to discover Google Fiber that's based in Chicago. They don't have fiber all over Chicago yet.
Yeah. Trying to change. Hold on. Change service order. Move the Wi-Fi up. Okay.
Hey, we're definitely need to go to.
If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
Our internet providers, specifically.
They suck so bad. All right, come on, man.
Should I play that? I'll play that Bullworth interlude in its entirety while you fix your tech problem, so people can enjoy.
I'll be right back.
Okay, the magnificence of this movie that you should all go check out.
Any questions?
4 years ago, you promised us federal funding to rebuild our community. What happened?
Well, what happened was that we all knew that was going to be big news for a while, so we all came down here, Bush, Clinton, Wilson, all of us. We got our pictures taken, told you what you wanted to hear, and we pretty much forgot about it.
We can't get health insurance, fire insurance, life insurance. Why haven't you come out for Senate Bill 2720?
Well, because you haven't really contributed any money to my campaign, have you? You got any idea how much these insurance companies come up with? They pretty much depend on me to get a bill like that and bottle it up in my committee during an election, and in that way, we can kill it when you're not looking.
And you saying the Democratic Party don't care about the African-American community?
Isn't that obvious? Hey, you got half of your kids out of work and the other half are in jail. Do you see any Democrat doing anything about it? Certainly not me. So what are you going to do, vote Republican? Come on, you're not going to vote Republican. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, come on, you can have a billion-man march. If you don't put down that malt liquor and chicken wings and get behind somebody other than a running back who stabs his wife, you're never going to get rid of somebody like me.
Fire indeed. Okay, so really quickly, Papal Penguin Gaming. I did appreciate you reached out to me that you guys don't service our area. Jerry, there is a form that you can fill out to have us talk with property management to get in. I am property management. This is a 2-flat. But I don't know if your company services 2-flats. It might just service larger complexes. So I'll check into that though. But yeah, I mean, I'm the landlord of this 2-flat building. I've got one tenant downstairs. So if they need to talk to me to get in and give me the internet and explore it, I would certainly be open to that.
To the best of my knowledge, I am on my mobile hotspot right now. I'm hoping that I'm coming through live and clear.
You are. And ironically, when I jumped in on my iPhone a couple shows back, when I dropped out and someone in the live chat said, Jerry looks better on his iPhone and his data service than he does through StreamYard. I actually did a recording test, like the StreamYard image and OBS, and I actually have a good camera image here. It's that the upstream from here to StreamYard is making my image softer than it was coming from my iPhone. So it's like you can't win one way or the other, man. I like what Kathy says. How about tin cans and a string?
Yeah, that might actually give us a better signal right now. Okay, that's enough Cam Buckner.
Enough tech talk.
Let's get to the next thing on our...
Oh, Kathy was also able to help clarify. PACE is totally separate from CTA, although CTA does share some Chicago collar areas. It sucks bigly too.
Oh. It'd be nice if they could coordinate things, technological wise and everything else.
People Penguin Gaming, that'd be too much work. I can't go through the neighborhood and start getting everybody on my block to sign up, unfortunately. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the attempt to troubleshoot. I wish it wasn't.
All right. So here we are. I put a little note from CapitalFacts.com in there because I wanted to. I know he mentioned that Governor Pritzker still wants to hire more cops, and I'm looking at that in an interview with Mike Flannery, who apparently is a reporter who will be retiring soon. So farewell, Mike Flannery. Thanks for the content. But I'm not sure exactly when this interview took place, but I think there's a link in there to the actual, like a 20-minute interview that he had there. But the quote here from Pritzker talking about crime, I think. He says it has trended down from a year or two ago, but it's mildly moving in the right direction. Again, I don't think there's evidence like it's heading down 400 or less murders a year and after shootings. I do think, though, that there's more emphasis on prevention than there ever has been before with the new mayor, and I'm grateful for that. I think that lifting up communities that have been poor and left out is the best way for us to make an enormous difference going forward at lowering crime rates. Flannery asks, so what do you think is going to work in the short term? How do we stop next weekend and the weekend after that? Pritzker says, couple of things. One is we've got to hire police. Okay, I'm not entirely sure I agree with that, Pritzker, but I see where Pritzker's point of view is because he's a billionaire. Remember, he's in the top 20.
Yeah.
That he's used to having police. He's used to them being a major part of the solution to crime. So it's like Pritzker is like the best of the billionaires, if there's such a thing, just because of the way he talks and the things he seems to care about. Although,
can you imagine that too?
The problem is he's still a billionaire.
Yeah,
and that, which in my mind means he's not giving enough of that money back to the city he lives in. Anyway, so he thinks that because he's talking about all the losses, he says that the Chicago police has lost like 1,500 police officers through retirements and some of them just leaving and some of them getting fired or let go during the lockdown for whatever number of reasons. And so he thinks that there's a labor shortage there, not just with police, but a lot of places. And Flannery says, and people don't want to be cops anywhere in the country. Okay, well, maybe if they didn't have such a terrible stigma, you wouldn't have to worry so much about that. Let me mute Oreo's microphone. Okay. Hopefully that. No. Hold on. I got to mute Jerry's microphone too. Okay. See, now we can see Oreo. But then we can't hear Jerry because he's feeding back on himself. What you probably need to do, Jerry, is mute your computer speaker so you can listen through your mobile device, and then we won't get the feedback.
I turned down my mobile device volume.
Oh, okay. All right, that works. That works too. Hi, Oreo. See, now we can do the thing where we feature Oreo.
And now, anytime I put the camera on him is when he decides he's going to move around.
Yeah. And so, now it's time for the Oreo show.
A little ham. All right, are you going to sit down?
It's like, no. He's like, stop shooting me.
I'm trying to give him the attention he wants. And of course, oh, wow, you don't want to see my...
Well, he's got it. Now it's like, that's like the Batman close up.
Yeah.
Isn't it, Jerry?
Is it what?
Do that again and talk like Batman.
I'm Batman.
Yeah. See, that's
fuck off. No, that's what we want.
That's from that. That's a callback to that
Jimmy Kimmel sketch.
Jimmy Kimmel sketch. Yeah.
It was hilarious. We showed that on the Flash review. Hey, fuck off. Anyway, all right. So now,
okay, that's enough of that interview. I just wanted to bring up how it's Pritzker's a little out of touch with what the city needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to this here. And yeah. Oh, we got to follow. We got some breaking-ish news. And if I can find that. Oh, here we go. That's not it. There we go. Okay. Now you guys might remember we covered this story a while ago, like a year ago, maybe less than a year. Archie's Bar, Archie's Tavern. It was a place that had that ham sign. You see?
We're talking about grandfathered signage.
Yeah. Well, apparently
they
weren't. They never had a permit to hang it in the first place.
Yeah.
And so
why should you need one?
Yeah. So the city made him take it down, and they finally got permission to put it back. So that's one of the things that happened today with the new zoning committee run by my older person, Carlos Ramirez Rosa. And so that ham sign will be going back up, hopefully, if they can find out where the hell they've stored it. But yeah, so and Alderperson Gil Villegas is happy about that. If I can get that to come, he says, "Finally, I'm glad to see that my colleagues supported this common sense zoning change that would allow for Archies to reinstall their ham spear sign." And the original heads up goes to Chicago Bars on Twitter, who also couldn't believe it took this long for them to do something about this. Okay, what's next? What's next on the thing here? Oh yeah, another thing that happened. Some of you may or may not be aware of a place called The Warehouse, which is the birthplace of house music. And it got landmark approval in the zoning council, but now it goes to the full city council to get voted on.
Oh.
So this place here, this tiny little building wedged between the other two buildings, that used to be like a club where people would go and dance to house music and stuff. And so it's a historical place in Chicago. So, and I'm sure other news outlets are going to cover this thing in detail, but I don't have that much experience with house music other than some of my friends who had experience with house music. But yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. So it says the West Loop building, known as the birthplace of house music, is one step closer to becoming a landmark. In the late 70s and early 80s, the Warehouse at 206 South Jefferson Street in the West Loop was home to dance parties hosted by the legendary Chicago DJ Frankie Knuckles, who helped create house music and popularize it around the world. And that's all I got for that one. Oh, and we got an update, an I-95 update. So remember, some of you recall that I-95 in Philadelphia had a section of it collapse after a was it a truck got out of control and caught on fire underneath it.
Yeah.
I think they could patch it up pretty good.
Tonight, holding out hope on the word of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Within 2 weeks, he says, 6 temporary lanes are expected to open on I-95, allowing traffic to resume once again along that stretch of highway closed now for a full week. Sunday night, I'm Walter Perez. The big story in Action News at 10 is progress made just 1 week after the I-95 bridge collapsed in the Tacony section of Philadelphia. This is a live look at the construction site where crews have piled up layers and layers of metal caging and a special recycled glass material to make those impending temporary lanes. Now is a waiting game to see if the governor's 2-week promise holds true.
Yeah, and the governor, their governor on Twitter is saying that he thinks it's going to be ready for the weekend. I want you guys to check this thing out too, because they have a little time lapse of what they've put together so far. Check this out.
It's been a week and a day now since the collapse of I-95 in Tacony, and the round-the-clock work appears to be paying off. We've made this time-lapse video showing the progress made from the end of last week through this afternoon. In just a matter of days, crews have been able to almost completely fill the gap to road level.
That's great.
Temporary lanes can be paved over top of it. We learned over the weekend from Governor Josh Shapiro that traffic is expected to be moving again in both directions, incredibly, within 2 weeks' time. A live look now.
Can you imagine if they did other types of infrastructure repairs that quickly?
Ed, I've seen it happen here not in Chicago, but in Evanston. I recall that there was I believe it was the, what's the train that goes into the city? From the suburbs. Is that RTA?
The Metro?
The Metro. There was a Metro bridge in Evanston near Central Street. And they replaced that Metro bridge in a weekend, 3 days. They shut the street down and replaced the entire overpass in 3 days' time. So it is possible. When we look at the construction of the Jane Byrne interchange downtown, it wasn't from some destruction. There was a lot of construction there. But that Jane Byrne interchange took more time to construct than we were in World War II. And we see what happened here in Pennsylvania Philadelphia. And we see what I saw in Evanston had to be about 10, 15 years ago, how quickly they replaced that overpass. 3 days over a weekend. And they made sure to schedule it on a weekend so as not to interfere with people's commutes downtown. Every bridge I pass under here in Chicago where it's like crumbling and it's like held together with like metal straps that are bolted in and stuff. I'm just like, it's not, I say this a lot, but it's not a matter of if, but when we'll see a disaster like this here in Chicago. Hopefully not, but man, we got to pick up the pace on fixing our infrastructure.
Yeah. And speaking of infrastructure, unfortunately, this infrastructure is not going to be around much longer. John's Pizzeria, one of Chicago's oldest to close after nearly 7 decades. This place opened in 1957, and the cost of a large cheese pizza was only $1.50.
Where are they located?
They are located, I think they're off of Western Avenue.
Dude.
Yeah, Logan Square, 2104 North Western Avenue. These guys are closing. Their last day is Friday, June 30th.
Small business loan, Ed's Pizza, Big Ed's. There's a whole kitchen there you could take over.
Now, here's the problem with that, Jerry, is that the guy who's currently running the place is the son of the John who started the place. He was leasing from his sister, who unfortunately made the decision to no longer lease to him. It's in the story they say. In the story, it seems they're saying it was amicable, but who knows?
Oh, that sounds like no.
Yeah,
what a
sounds
shitty
to
thing
me. Yeah, it's kind of a shitty thing to do. It sounds like the sister was looking to try and make some money from a prime real estate location. So,
and the family just suffered. That's sad.
But you can still get this pizza through the 30th. That'll be 10 days from now. You got 10 days left to head over to 2104 Northwestern Avenue. So it was John Imburgia opened the restaurant in 1957. And Larry is the guy who was running it now. His sister Frances is selling the property. Says there was no friction. I don't know. That's.
Well, go enjoy that pizza before they're gone.
Yeah. So let's see. What did they say? Here, we're sad to close John's Pizzeria, but we're happy with the legacy we left and have been so appreciative with the warm response from the community with this announcement. We've loved serving Chicago delicious pizza for the last 66 years. Now they're selling not just hot pizzas, but also par-baked pizzas. So if anybody wants to stock up before he's gone, you got 10 days. So that's my support local pizza while they're still around. For in the next 10 days, I would recommend supporting John's Pizza, but support any local pizza place because they need your money. You want to keep those places around. It helps the local economy. So what else is next? Oh yeah. And then I just wanted to bring up that Chicago's doing this, but essentially it's a federal program from the USDA. It is it's a summer food service program that they do. Federally funded, state administered program. USDA reimburses program operators who serve no-cost healthy meals and snacks to children and teens in low-income areas. And they're doing a lot of the Chicago public schools are participating in this. There is, if you go to, hold on, let me copy the link here and put it in the chat here. The USDA has a link at fns.usda.gov/meals4kids. Let me put this one up on the screen. Okay. And there's a thing where you can search for locations that are participating in this. You can find meals for kids when schools are closed. So they have, this might not be the right link. I got links in the show notes that are easier to find here. Yeah, the Chicago Public Schools has one as well at cps.edu. I'm going to paste that one in there. And there should be a way to search for locations in your area that are participating in the times that they're operating. It says, Dear CPS families, now that summer's underway, we want to let you know that free nutritious meals will soon be available for CPS students at hundreds of locations around the city. That started today. Children can access meals at all lunch stop locations beginning next Tuesday, June 20th, today, at all CPS schools offering summer programs beginning on Monday, June 26th. This summer meals program will run through Wednesday, August 9th and Friday, August 11th. So they got links in their websites there, and you can check in our show notes for all that information. Hope your head's not spinning too much on that story. But I want to get to, did you know that you can do stuff with AI because AI is a tool, Jerry?
I did, and I've actually experimented with this with some political personalities in regards to figuring out how to create a new set of political playing cards without having rights issues.
I was toying with the possibility that maybe we could do a segment every once in a while called Ask ChatGPT, where we could have you out in the audience help us with questions that we should be asking it or things we should be asking it to do for us. Because basically AI is a tool, right? And so we want to use it to help us do things that maybe would take us a lot longer to do without this type of assistance. Now, I did a test. What I've got on the screen right now is the transcript of me asking ChatGPT to do something. I said, using content from the website realdeepdish.com that shows people how to make Chicago-style pizza at home, generate a factual fundraising pitch to encourage people to donate. And it came up with this thing. And watch me scroll down here. there's a ton of stuff that it came up with, it with bullet points and headlines, and like it wrote a letter for me basically.
Did it actually make sense? I mean, to a degree.
Pretty much. Yeah. Let me read some of it. It's dear pizza lovers, we are reaching out to you today with an exciting opportunity to support and preserve one of America's most cherished culinary traditions, Chicago-style pizza. At RealDeepDish.com, we have been dedicated to sharing the art and joy of creating authentic Chicago-style pizza at home. Now we need your help to continue our mission and ensure this delicious tradition lives on for future generations. And then it goes on. Basically, it's a pitch asking people to donate. And so I'm thinking, well, we could do one of those for anything.
Do one for Chicago Corner. Can you plug that one in soon?
Yeah, in fact, we should do that live on Friday.
All right, let's
make a note to that, and I can log into my Chat GPT. We could do that live.
Okay.
So that'll be fun, because then it'll be a lot easier for us. You know, I mean, yeah, we do pretty good at ad-libbing and stuff, but sometimes it's good to have a little bit of a script to have an idea on how to think of all the great ways that Chicago Corner provides great, amazing local content and local perspectives to all of you out there. And I am so happy to promote Chicago Corner. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can head over to patreon.com/Chicago Corner. And for as little as $5 a month, you have the opportunity once a month to become a guest on this program. Give us your 2 cents. And no, I did not ask ChatGPT to write that. That came off the top of my brain. So there we are. There's my AI segment there. And then we finally get to the part that I really wanted to get to, the end of the show, Jerry. And at the end of the show, I just wanted to note that there are a few things that happened on this day in history, June 20th. In 1840, the American inventor Samuel Morse patented his telegraph. You know, that thing that goes, you know, that thing that they used to use to communicate to people across overseas, Morse code. 1890, remember Lizzie Borden, accused of murdering her parents with an axe?
Oh, yeah.
Was found innocent by a jury in New Bedford, Massachusetts.
How did she get away with that?
I don't know. In 1947, Benjamin Bugsy Siegel was murdered at the Beverly Hills, California mansion of his girlfriend, Virginia Hill, at the order of mob associates angered over the soaring costs of Siegel's pet project, the Flamingo Resort Hotel in Las Vegas.
That's another great Warren Beatty movie with Warren and Annette Bening, Bugsy, where he told Bugsy Siegel's story, and that is depicted in that movie.
Yes, and the character Mo Green from The Godfather is heavily based on him as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So that explains Mo Green and the Vegas hotel thing, you know. Okay, 1963, to lessen the threat of an accidental nuclear war, the United States and the Soviet Union, remember Russia, agreed to establish a hotline communication system between the two nations. I thought that was an important thing to point out right now. 1963, they were kind of sort of friends even during the Cold War.
Yeah.
It's like we know we're doing this whole saber rattling thing, but we still need to let each other know if something's going to be happening with the nuclear stuff. But instead today, they're all fast and loose in our government with that. Knock it off. We don't want World War III. And then the important part of this day in history, Jerry.
Yes.
In 1975
is when we needed a bigger boat.
Da-da, da-da,
you want to talk about, you know, the word timeless gets thrown around a lot, but that movie, you can turn it on today, and even though it was made in a different time, it plays just as well today as if it happened now. as when it was originally presented in 1975, the premiere of Jaws, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, we don't have any clips of Jaws. We need to start putting.
No, I got to get Robert Shaw's Doll's Eyes, Dead Eyes. They roll over. And figure out where we can play that. Because Lori Lightfoot's gone, we don't have the opportunity anymore to drop it in with her. But most importantly, Ed, go ahead.
Most importantly, today, June 20th, in the year 1980. Hold on.
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
I said June 20th in the year 1980. The musical comedy film The Blues Brothers, directed by John Landis, starring Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, and featuring appearances by Aretha Franklin, Cab Calloway, and Ray Charles, opened in 594 theaters.
I remember it well.
Ow!
Christ, Jake, take it easy, man.
Elwood.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Shit. Fuck you, bitch. Hey. Jesus Christ. Oh, you fat penguin.
And I'm so glad that movie came out, but not the second one.
Oh my! We don't even. Which one? What? There was a second one? Can we just pretend it never happened?
Well, I mean, some people would call it a sequel, and there were some cute moments in it, but they shouldn't have made it.
No, I would call it an abortion, but that's just me being really mean. It was a horrible movie. I mean, I understand Dan Aykroyd really wanted to, look, the Blues Brothers are very dear to Dan Aykroyd's heart, is his creation, but nobody wants to watch a Blues Brothers movie where Elwood gets out of jail and finds out that Jake is dead. Okay, sorry, missed opportunity. It's not something you can recast. Just leave it.
You can't.
Leave the memories as it was left.
I mean, yeah, it's like they tried, but no. Can't do
What is
it.
this noise, man?
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we reached 10 o'clock Central Time, which is a perfect place.
Yes, for me to go get my Doan's pills.
For Jerry to go get his painkillers.
Oh my God, I can't believe how much it's hurt. I've been literally trying not to move, but it hurts, man.
Yeah, it sucks. I hate back pain. And I hope you feel better.
Me too.
And I hope everyone else out there is feeling better, or at least you will if you're not right now. But I want to thank you for joining us on this this jam-packed Tuesday night edition of Chicago Corner. And I hope you will join us on Friday when Jerry is piloting the ship, hopefully not in so much pain.
Yeah.
And hopefully without me having technical internet issues. Which I was like, what the hell, Comcast? Seriously, come on. Do better. 10 gig internet, my ass.
They just lies.
Yes. So, I guess I'm going to check in on the live chat really quick here. And I want to thank Kathy and Dominic and Extra Bulla Warren and Natalie Williams and Papal Penguin Gaming, and Miguel H was here, and that Chicago Corner guy, whoever that is, and who else joined us? I got my Rockfin tab is closed, but thank you for the people joining us on Rockfin and out there in the other streamlands where we are streaming.
Oh, on Rockfin we had Leonard Trust Fund.
Leonard Trust Fund, thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll be able to cover things that you're a little more interested in hearing us talk about. But you can always also send us stories.
Yeah.
Things that come on your radar, maybe they didn't come on our radar. Stories you think that maybe we should cover, something that you're interested in hearing us talk about, send an email to, do we have the stories email set up, or should we send it to Jerry?
I do have stories. I think I do have stories at chicagocorner.tv. I think I did, but just for now, it's in the credits. Send it to me direct.
Yeah, so
Always
send it to
that email.
Send to Jerry at chicagocorner.tv. And if you're ever having trouble finding us for whatever reason, head over to chicagocornertv.com and you will find links to all of our social media, links to the streams that we're doing, and occasionally we'll throw an update in there in a little update box. Plus, there's links to things, interesting links.
We could all use some moist heat, Warren.
Yeah. So I actually just added some useful links to the useful links section. One is for reporting potholes in Chicago. So you see a pothole and you remember where the location was, go to the link on the city's website, which we have in our useful links section, and tell them where it is. And eventually it might actually get patched if they know about it. Thing is, we don't have like a team or a crew in the city going around looking to see where the potholes are so they can patch them. If we did, we'd have much better roads right now.
Kathy, I didn't see your X-Files comment, so I'm not sure what you're referencing, hon.
Anyway. What X-Files comment? I don't know. I was focusing on the show notes. I didn't get to see a lot of the chat.
Stellar. There we go.
Stellar. Okay. All right. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the other people streaming. I know, was it Uncle Warren? You're going to be streaming on Saturday, probably.
And for all of our movie fans in our audience, I did a special segment on Sunday with Art Medina, a friend of the show, on The Flash, and what I perceive as the end of the DC cinematic universe. Go check it out. It was a lot of fun talking movies.
Yeah, also known as Batman
Returns Again.
By
the way, Kevin
Smith
did his usual shill episode on his channel last night, right, on YouTube, and he used, we're going to be reviewing The Flash, in parentheses, also known as Batman Returns Again, and I posted in his Twitter thread, dude, we used that joke on Sunday.
Yeah, well, great minds.
Somewhere where
great minds think alike, Jerry.
Think alike.
That's the way I'm going to roll with that one.
All right.
So, again, yes, Extra Bull is going to be live on Saturday night, or is that the secret show? It's probably the secret show.
Yeah.
He's doing secret shows until he decides to do other shows, because we know he also has a channel called Mundus Ultra. And that's a really interesting channel too, which is why we had him on the other night talking to us about UFOs, because we figured that he and Jimmy, that would be right up their alley.
You have to wonder, Miguel H., because ours went on Sunday, and I do follow him, so I think we're in each other's feeds. So
yeah, but you would think if he's watching us, he'd tell us though.
No, he would not.
No, maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he's just we're just in similar wavelengths sometimes. It's like similar senses of humor. I expect occasionally people are going to come up with the same jokes from time to time.
I liked Kevin Smith until Kevin Smith died after his heart attack. He's a completely different dude since his heart. I mean, look, I'm glad he recovered from his heart attack, right? No, but I mean, man, has that guy lost his edge? I mean, I still like him, but I just feel like somehow or another that experience completely took away his edge, and he likes everything. He goes on social media to show
he actually had I think on his Twitter I saw his comment was, he's like, the reason why I only talk about the stuff that I like. He's like, I don't waste time talking about the stuff that I don't like. And I'm like, okay, I guess that explains some of it, but
no, it's because he works in the Hollywood ecosystem, and he can't be honestly critical as a professional, as a craftsman, okay, working in film and media, to hold criticism where criticism is due.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, for one, I'm sure he had a life. That was a life-changing thing for him to have his heart attack. So you reevaluate everything you're doing going forward. But also, he's embraced his celebrity a lot more now than he has before, and I think that's where he's basically been focusing most of his attention. Because is he making a new movie? Does anybody know?
Kevin Smith's last great movie was Red State, and that was a good movie.
I didn't see Red State.
Check it out. And then suddenly he devolved back into how many new iterations of Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob. It's like, dude, that's
I haven't
funny. When we were younger, you did Red State. It was a serious film. You kind of came across as a serious filmmaker. It was about a religious cult in a red state. And I'm remembering the finer details. But it dealt. Oh, I remember what it was. It was about a religious cult that felt the end of the world was coming, and how they were like abducting people that they felt were sinners and stuff. I mean, it was really like controversial but good. And it's been a long time since I saw it, but I got to tell you, I was so impressed with. Oh wow, we don't need to see Clerks. We don't need to see Jay and Silent Bob. It's like he's actually taking something on that had some like serious. Social commentary, and then I guess it didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't do well. It should have, and then he just went back and embraced, and he had his heart attack. He started embracing all the stuff that it's like, just
I didn't see the last Jay and Silent Bob or the Clerks 3. I wouldn't mind seeing them, but I can understand it. Essentially, it's just
Kathy,
fan service, right?
Kathy, I did too. And it doesn't, I mean, if anything, I think maybe I started getting edgier. But Warren also mentions Kevin Smith fears being canceled. I think you're absolutely right, Warren. I think that's why he lost his edge in this new society of like, what can we say and what can't we say? And what's safe?
Although I think he said a lot of what needed to be said during his Dogma.
Another great film.
So that's, I mean, if you haven't seen Dogma, holy cow.
That film is not available widely because the Weinstein Company owns it.
You can't.
And he's been trying to negotiate to like release the rights so that you can find Dogma because Harvey Weinstein's company owns it.
Well, that, and he can't even get the rights to make a sequel to that if he wanted to. I mean, some people may not want a sequel, but I'm saying
I don't think it needs a sequel. But that is a movie that, much like the other film I was mentioning earlier, Warren Beatty's Bulworth, a lot of great films from that era that people can't find that I don't think that they could be made today, and had quite a sharp bite commenting on culture, politics, everything else that you can't today because, as Warren said, you probably would get canceled for it.
Yeah, and one of our longtime viewers, Big Mr. Firebird, who unfortunately can't always watch us live anymore because he's like 6 or 7 hours ahead, did manage to tune in for the streaming of your movie review. And so he and I were basically talking in the live chat, and he was talking about what a great actor Alan Rickman was.
Yeah.
And that was his problem with a possible Dogma sequel, was that, well, you don't have Alan Rickman anymore. So it's like, I'm like, yeah, I said, that's fair. I mean, he was a huge part of that movie and brilliant. Brilliant in a lot of movies.
I'm starting to think I'm starting to wonder if we maybe would have been better served with the original Star Wars not having a huge box office and just being left there with how it's been mutated into all these iterations that are just like woke and this and that.
That's okay. All right. So let's get the hell out of here. So come see us on Friday, 7:30 p.m. Central, give or take a few minutes, and technical difficulties notwithstanding. But thanks for joining us. Please stay hydrated, drink plenty of fluids, eat pizza once in a while, and take care of each other. Good night.
Ah! Oh, fuck this noise, man!
Get out. And don't come back until until you've redeemed yourselves.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. If you would like to be a guest on Chicago Corner, please email our host, Jerry, at chicagocorner.tv.